Signature Bank.
Signature Bank helps local businesses succeed. Want to learn how Signature Bank can help turn your business vision into reality? Call Signature Bank at 773-467-5600 or visit signaturebank.bank. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
I'm Ben Barzita.
And I'm Matt Nadeau, founding partners of Barzita and Nadeau Wealth Management. And after more than a decade on the air, we're excited to be back with our brand new show, Money Hour Radio.
Tune in every Saturday at 1 p.m. on AM 560 as we break down retirement planning, market trends, tax reduction strategies, and our Advance and Protect investment approach.
It's sophisticated planning, independent analysis, and trusted guidance backed by over 40 years of combined experience.
Join us for Money Hour Radio, Saturdays at 1 p.m. on AM 560.
Now, your official weather forecast.
Today will bring a mix of clouds and sun along with breezy conditions and warmer temperatures. There is a chance of a shower in the area with a high of 76 degrees. Tonight will be mainly clear with a low of 58. Tomorrow is expected to be mostly sunny and comfortable with a high of 77. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
Portions of the following show may be pre-recorded.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. 'Tis the season of teen takeovers. And our friend Alderman Ray Lopez tried to resuscitate an ordinance that would incentivize parents to be responsible for their minor children in the city of Chicago, to try to tamp down some of these scenes that you see on social media where mobs of teenagers, basically, are engaged in general lawlessness. In some instances, people have been hurt, even killed. And so as people seek to enjoy the city and what's left of, in the summer, I should say, and what's left of the city, some older humans are trying to do something to encourage people to actually do so, even coming from the suburbs to the city. But you see these scenes online and you get the impression that the political leadership of the city doesn't back law enforcement, and it sort of leaves a lot of people disinclined to hang out in the city on the weekends, go take in a show, enjoy a restaurant. So this was Ray Lopez's commentary on the ordinance he proposed, failing miserably to move the views of the older humans that are opposed to criminalizing crime.
And as I'm sure you heard by now, today we tried to introduce an ordinance that would hold parents accountable for the actions of their minors, their youth, their teens, who we oftentimes see weekend after weekend engaging in violent, dangerous behavior, whether it's giant, large, urban outdoor actions or even street takeovers where they're doing donuts and setting the asphalt on fire. City Council had the opportunity today to hold parents accountable, not in a way that hurts them financially, but in a way that wakes them up, that reminds them that they need to be parents first before they are anything else. And sadly, City Council, by a vote of 32-16, chose not to take any action. They are fine with the status quo. And my question to you is, are you fine with what we're going to see this summer as the youth continue to act in unruly ways, put themselves and others in danger, knowing that your alderman had the chance to make a difference and today chose not to? It's a very sad day here in the city of Chicago, and unfortunately, with summer just starting, this is what we're going to have to see weekend after weekend, month after month, and I pray that none of those aldermen who voted no have a teen event where someone gets injured or even killed.
And, beyond the tourism piece of it, even sort of the regional tourism, making the city safe and actually appear to be safe for people to, as I said, come downtown, enjoy the lakefront, take in a show, patronize a restaurant. It's also sort of the responsibility of the city to provide for the physical safety of their residents on a daily basis, the people that are actually in the city. So it's more than just what you see in these street takeovers. Christian Maxwell is running for Congress. She's the Republican nominee against Jonathan Jackson. Those Jacksons just keep on coming, don't they? She lives in Hyde Park. She posted this video after there was a teen takeover in a local grocery store where she was with her kids, grocery shopping, doing the mundanities of day-to-day living in the city like anywhere else. And here's the scene that she describes, and you'll hear how animated she got with respect to the safety of her family and, frankly, the safety of these teenagers who are crossing lines they may not want to be crossing if they run into the wrong person.
Well, I unfortunately just got caught in a teen takeover at the Hyde Park Trader Joe's.
Hyde Park right now. This is not acceptable. Your entire teen takeover outside. Oh my God.
She's got video
I got
of
back
it.
from the office and decided to pop into Trader Joe's so I could get some dinner and snacks for my kids. When I arrived there, there were a few units from UCPD, and then there were some teens walking around. And I was like, you know what? They seem like they're leaving. I'm going to go ahead and run into the store. I didn't leave any of my belongings in my car, and I took my kids into the store with me. While we were in the store, the entire store is swarmed with hundreds of teens. And these are not cheerful looking teens. I love our people, but we have to be so for real about what is happening in Chicago right now, because nothing about what I just saw is okay. My kids were afraid. The people in the store were very nervous. I heard parents telling their kids, shut up, I have to think. People literally frantically trying to figure out what they may need to do to get out of a very tough situation. This is not okay. Chicagoans are being terrorized by these teens. CPS, turn off the bus cards. Right now, we don't need divvy bikes. We don't need scooters. There has to be a citywide mandatory curfew for these kids. Mayor Brandon, do something. It's not okay for people to be terrorized in a Trader Joe's on a Monday night while they're grabbing some groceries. You have to fix this situation. This is not acceptable. It is dangerous, because if I would have been carrying, I had to literally frantically load groceries into my car while teen boys who were taller and bigger than me were all around my vehicle and all throughout the lot. Not everybody's going to be patient, and not everybody's going to be understanding.
So are you going to say Christian Maxwell? She racist? Is that the line that you're using to defend the unwillingness to criminalize crime, the unwillingness to provide for the quality of life of Christian Maxwell and her family? By the way, she's married to a police officer. We've talked to her on the program before. BLM Brandon's response, of course, lives down to expectation.
From what I understand, the measure would create more fines and fees and penalties for parents who knowingly allow their children to participate in these type of gatherings. I've said from the very beginning, it's about not just accountability, it's about opportunity as well. That's why I've called on the business community, philanthropic community, our faith-based organizations, community-based organizations to invest in safe spaces, and people are doing that. Today, I was just at the Art Institute, and I commended them for creating a space for over 500 teenagers to come and hang out at the Art Institute. We need more of that. As far as increasing penalties, we know what criminalization does, particularly for more vulnerable communities. It has not led to creating safer spaces. We have to do what works. So I'm going to continue to call for the level of opportunity and investment. When individuals act outside of the confines of the construction of the law, those individuals should be held accountable.
And when the Art Institute gets trashed, what then? You think it's just a safe space problem? Put 500 teens that have no impulse control and have suffered no consequences for bad behavior in any situation. It's not just teenagers, but since we're focused on them, I'll stick to that. No, it's just safe spaces. It's a lack of opportunity. What about all the teenagers who suffer from the same alleged lack of opportunities who don't engage in that conduct? You can't distinguish? You can't distinguish between the families and the parents that have stewardship over their kids and the ones who don't? The kids that are behaving within the bounds of the law and those who are not. I mean, this is the typical blurring of the lines that you get from these identitarians. And by the way, it's in the, a couple of things on those who voted against it. Byron Sigcho Lopez, one of the card-carrying neo-Marxists, self-described socialists, you can routinely see him wearing a keffiyeh, because he's in solidarity with Palestinian liberation and so forth. All the faddish positions of the identitarians. He's the guy who was just bitching the other day about a bomb, quote unquote, that went off in his hood that blew out his windows. I think it was more like fireworks. But anyway, he called police, and the police response wasn't what he thought it should be, which is an interesting thing from a guy who supports defunding police. The ironies abound here. He voted against the ordinance, as did little Billy Conway, billionaire baby boy Billy, and some of these others who like to beat their chests about public safety and represent revenue-producing wards, and yet can't bring themselves to stand up to the identitarians. Wagaspack, he voted against it. Matt O'Shea on the South Side. The alderman for all the cops and firefighters and first responders on the South Side, he voted against it. And of course, Maria, wrong place, wrong time, Haddon. Remember her? Wrong place, wrong time. Sheridan Gorman was in the wrong place, wrong time when she was murdered by a person protected by our sanctuary city, county, state status. Here's her explanation.
We also were able to stop the movement of a couple of things that were really concerning. One was Alderman Ray Lopez's, parental punishment ordinance, we'll call it. We already defeated this in committee. He maneuvered to bring it back to try and pass it in council again today. We were able to defeat that. This would have tried to put more punishment on parents when their minor children run into issues. We know that we need better tools to address negative or bad teen behavior. Going after vulnerable people to try and charge them more money that they don't have. We've seen this not work. Doesn't work. It's been proven. That's why we voted it down in committee. And we soundly defeated that in council today.
Congratulations. Amish Texter, look, if Trader Joe's wants to be open in Hyde Park, they're just going to have to hire 500 teen violence interrupters to deal with the teen takeovers. Exactly. That's, the circle of life in the city. I get it. Dan in Naperville.
Good morning. I noticed you always say teen takeover, but we have no idea of their ages, but we do know their race. How come you never highlight that?
What do you want me to say? It's a majority of young black men, young black kids? Yeah, it is. There you go. It's highlighted. And the other thing I highlight, too, because I'm even-handed about these things, is all the actual young black kids who aren't engaged in this. It's a big city, big population across the demographics. And so, very much in the Bob Woodson tradition, why is it that we have to spend all our time running interference for young adults, teens that have no impulse control, and there's no demand on them to have any impulse control from parents or political leaders? And we don't highlight all the kids that seem to get along and have an enjoyable summer, maybe have a job, engage in activities, enjoy the city just like anybody else. Well, why aren't they modeled as like, why can't you behave like Johnny next door? It's always running interference for the people that are the chaos instigators, the lawless types, up and down the age cohorts, across the racial spectrum. And we do have a pretty good idea about these teen takeovers because, well, first of all, there are arrests made by Chicago police. It doesn't mean that it results in prosecutions. Secondly, Chicago police have a pretty good handle on who's who when they show up to a scene or they're monitoring a scene, one of these teen takeovers. Christian Maxwell at her Trader Joe's in Hyde Park, pretty good handle on what time it is. with the distribution of people that are behaving themselves versus those who are not. And then, yeah, we get from Chicago Press Corps and we get from the politicians, the Chicago Press Corps that serves the politicians, that these are all, honor students, rambunctious kids being silly, as BLM Brandon infamously said. So I like to provide, a point of view you don't hear anywhere else. And by the way, good for Christian Maxwell. She is right now, it seems to me, in the city of Chicago, maybe the greater Chicagoland area, the only candidate for office, the only Republican candidate for office, certainly, and thus the only candidate for office, that has sort of a Spencer Pratt attitude. She is speaking what is real in an unvarnished way and an informed way. She's actually quite compelling. It's just unfortunate, the difficulty she's going to have with the political demographics running against Jonathan Jackson, who is completely witless and, frankly, not a particularly compelling politician. But, hey, the numbers are the numbers, just like Spencer Pratt found out in L.A. All right, let's check the headlines with Mike Scott.
5:34 in Chicago and the QC Kinetics newsroom. Clouds and sun with a shower in spots and breezy this morning. High 74 later today. Tornadoes caused injuries across the Midwest. Several reported in Iowa and here in Illinois, including one that caused major injuries in the city of Charleston, where they've declared a state of emergency this morning after a confirmed tornado touched down there. This firefighter was rushing to his station in the town of Lincoln when violent storms struck him.
So I was responding to my first call with the storm, and I felt my truck shake and a loud pop, and lightning struck my truck. It went completely dark. Indicator lights came on, and I just literally texted my chief and said, hey, I can't go anywhere.
Tornadoes also struck the city of Effingham and destroyed parts of the town of Teutopolis. Full extent of the damage is not known. President Trump says he signed the memorandum of understanding negotiated with Iran. Here's Fox's Jessica Rosenthal.
At the end of the G7 summit, President Trump confirmed Iran will get to sell oil and access a reconstruction fund, but only if they comply with the terms of the deal. The president said other countries will be able to invest in Iran's reconstruction.
They've had much more than $1 trillion worth of damage done. They got a long way. There'll be 15 to 20 years to rebuild.
The deal calls for an end to all fighting, including between Hezbollah in Lebanon and Israel. Jessica Rosenthal, Fox News.
Vice President J.D. Vance expected to travel to Switzerland Friday to participate in a ceremonial signing. A plan to hold parents accountable for actions of their kids when it comes to teen rioting fails to gain traction in Chicago's City Council. To crack down on teen takeovers, Alderman Ray Lopez tried and failed to resurrect his parent accountability ordinance, but it failed.
We need to wake parents up. We need to give them the tools to be better parents in order to break this cycle, because even though the mayor keeps saying more money is needed for programs, the best program to keep youth in line is a parent that's paying attention.
City council members again rejected that plan. A man who was injured after being shot by police on the city's north side has been charged now with murder connected with a deadly shooting that happened moments prior to the police-involved action. According to Chicago police, the shooting happened Monday in the 1400 block of West Argyle in the Uptown neighborhood. The suspect, identified as 38-year-old Jonathan Wilson, got into an argument with a 63-year-old man in the 4800 block of North Clark Street. Chicago taxpayers will be shelling out more than $400 million to pay for upgrades at the site of the new Chicago Fire Stadium. Mayor Brandon Johnson says his proposed taxpayer subsidy is what he calls an investment.
To develop a whole community in which we're going to create jobs and housing and be able to generate revenue to make more investments into people. Why am I investing? To invest more into people? I mean, that's the hallmark of my administration.
The subsidy would fund public infrastructure at the near South Side parcel known as the 78, the 22,000-seat stadium being paid for in part by fire owner Joe Mansueto. The Trump administration is challenging a reparations program in Evanston. The Justice Department joined a suit filed by an activist group. The suit says reparations from the city offered to African-American residents for civil rights violations amount to racial discrimination. Actor and South Suburban native Tom Dreesen is dead. His children posted on Facebook that the longtime comedian passed away at age 86. And family and fellow musicians confirmed the death of the co-founder of the band Chicago, Walt Parazaider. The band confirmed the death of the sax and flute player who recently finished a 50-year run with the band. Parazaider may be best known for his flute solo in the song Color My World, and was the only horn when the Chicago Transit Authority was founded in 1967. Cubs won the rubber match of their set with Colorado 8-6. Sox are under 5 in the fifth in a 10-5 loss to the Yankees. The news, a service of Mattress Firm. Troubles sleeping lately? Upgrade to the great sleep you deserve at Mattress Firm's July 4th sale. They make sleep easy. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but up next, a check of the AccuWeather forecast in our Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center.
If you listen to the mainstream media and the Democrats, you'd think it was a sin to be black and conservative. Well, John Anthony blows up that perception every week on Black and Right. Join John this Saturday afternoon at 4 when he pushes back against the left and its regressive, progressive agenda that tries to dictate how people should think or feel about politics. Listen to Black and Right this Saturday afternoon at 4 right here on AM 560. The Answer.
Temperatures are rising, and so are concerns about inflation, market volatility, and taxes. Revisit your financial plan this summer. VestGen Wealth Partners work with individuals to develop personalized plans that help navigate changing conditions with confidence. Visit GetRetiredStayRetired.com to learn more.
Advisory services offered through VestGen Advisors, LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor. Securities offered through Private Client Services, LLC, member FINRA and SIPC. Private Client Services and VestGen Advisors, LLC are unaffiliated entities. Any information discussed does not constitute investment advice. VestGen Advisors and Private Client Services do not offer tax legal advice.
Mike Lindell and the MyPillow employees want to thank you for your great support this past year. They want to make 2026 the best year ever. So to thank you, they are giving you free shipping on your entire order and wholesale pricing. So they are bringing back the mega sale. For example, the classic MyPillows, regularly $49.98, now only $14.98. Turn any mattress into the best mattress ever with the made in the USA MyPillow My Mattress Topper and save up to $100. Get a set of MyPillow Giza Dream Sheets for as low as $29.98 or the 6-pack towel set for only $34.98. To get the best specials ever, go to MyPillow.com and use promo code LIBERTY or call 800-489-0201 and use promo code LIBERTY. These offers won't last long, so call 800-489-0201 or go to MyPillow.com and use promo code LIBERTY. Order now and your entire order ships absolutely free.
Most investments today feel like second jobs. Real estate, you're a landlord. Stocks, you're a day trader. Crypto, you're a full-time researcher. You've got a life to live. Your investment should help you live it. That's why more Americans are choosing gold. Noble Gold has helped thousands protect their future with real physical gold. Visit NobleGoldInvestments.com to get your free wealth protection kit. That's NobleGoldInvestments.com. Past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals, including gold, involves risks. Consult with your tax attorney or financial professional before making an investment decision.
Amazon Business. With smart business buying, innovative AI tools optimize your purchasing experience paired with delivery options built for business. Learn more at AmazonBusiness.com.
Now, your official weather forecast.
Today, expect a mix of clouds and sunshine with a breeze picking up, leading to warmer temperatures and a chance of a passing shower in the area. The high will reach 76 degrees. Tonight will be mainly clear with a low of 58. Tomorrow is set to bring mostly sunny skies and comfortable conditions with a high of 77. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Before we turn our attention to the memorandum of understanding with the Iranians that President Trump signed yesterday in Versailles, I did want to make mention, since we've talked about it the last couple of days, and I sort of asked the question, why hasn't young Merlin Liu, he of the burning cross as a form of MAGA protest, burning cross in Grand Park, why hasn't he been charged yet? He offered a confession to Chuck Gowdy that was played on the air, so he's at minimum guilty of disorderly conduct, perhaps arson charges, public endangerment charges. Well, he was charged. Wednesday evening, he was arrested in connection with the hoax, charged with damaging property, arson, 2 counts of a hate crime. Ooh, a hate crime in the direction of MAGA. Ooh. And disorderly conduct, reckless conduct, criminal damage to property, and cross-burning to intimidate. So there you go. Gosh, I look forward to the character testimony or letters sent in pre-sentencing from the political establishment in Chicago asking for leniency for one Merlin Liu, because he is a fellow traveler and because they do support criminal activity. I mean, this political power structure. Criminal activity is the means to political ends. They'll excuse criminal activity as the means to political ends in terms of prosecution, and they'll support it, proactively as a form of political protest. So I'm sure that there'll be a GoFundMe page, a la Carmelo Anthony, that raises buku dollars for young Merlin Liu from Neuqua Valley, Tony Naperville, for his legal defense fund. But there were arrests made, so good for Chicago police and good for Cook County prosecutors for proving charges, and we'll follow that. Hopefully it'll be, and I suspect it will be, less of a saga than, say, the Jussie Smollett episode. Okay, on to Iran. Trump saying many things yesterday at the G7. Among other things, he posted that Iran's nuke program is over forever. All caps. Forever's a long time. No one can guarantee that. The mullahs have agreed, at the very least, that their enriched uranium stockpiles will be destroyed on site and that the International Atomic Energy Agency, which means us, will supervise. Since Iran can't dig out, we'd be the ones doing it. They only get sanctions relief after the dust is destroyed. That's not exactly true. I mean, you signed the MOU, you should know. And if Iran backs out, they've still agreed that they'll maintain the current status quo of their nuclear program. And the status quo is that they have no nuke program. Their uranium's buried, the centrifuge is shattered, and their scientists are all dead, so status quo is still bueno. Even then, Iran agreed to this quote, "We shall not procure or develop nuclear weapons, and if Iran so much as comes near the sites, it'll be trouble." Iran is allowed to sell oil again, so that's sanctions relief, isn't it? That means 2 things. 1, the price of oil is going to fall, so will gas prices and inflation here. And 2, China can't buy sanctioned Iranian oil at a discount anymore. They have to pay full price. It says after 60 days, Iran can talk to Oman and the Gulf states about how to manage the strait under international law. Now, people are saying that means Iran can go back to tolling. No, tolling the strait is illegal under international law, and the Gulf states would never agree to tolling. They just put that language in there so that Iran can save face. Okay. Big victory. 312-642-5600 is the alphawealthgroup.com call and text line. Trump asked by Doocy, if Fox News, if about the allowance of Iran to sell oil immediately, and this was his further explanation.
States is not going to directly pay Iran, but the U.S. is going to let the Iranians start making billions of dollars, selling oil, accessing this reconstruction fund.
Only if they're doing things right. Only if we're not doing anything. We're not putting up money. only if they're doing things right. If they're doing things right, if people want to invest, they can invest. But they had this $300 million fund. It's only $300 billion fund. It's only if they're doing things right. Remember this also, when you talk about billions of dollars, they've had much more than $1 trillion worth of damage done. They got a long way. There'll be 15 to 20 years to rebuild what they have right now. So they have to behave themselves. If they're not behaving, they get hit again. You know, they'll be hit again because we can do it very easily. It's going to take a long way for them to build back their anti-aircraft stuff.
Well, that's, there's various forecasts on how long that may take, depending on how this post-settlement deal works out in practicality. Rich Goldberg from Foundation for Defense Democracies, often on this program, was on with Brian Kilmeade going through some of the key parts of this. And on the sanctions waivers specifically.
Yeah, so a couple things going on here, and this is where we really have to watch. And this is where you get to determine whether this is a pretty good deal to get the Strait of Hormuz open and then collect all the gains of Epic Fury, or a bad deal where we're sort of slipping from nuclear extortion into Strait of Hormuz extortion. They're going to issue these sanctions waivers immediately to let Iran sell its oil, supposedly at pre-war levels.
Is this first time for decades?
Well, we obviously did during the war to bring some relief to the market. There was short-term relief provided to take some of the Iranian oil off the market. Remember, Secretary Bessent called that the jiu-jitsu move. This is now the first time we're issuing formal waivers for legitimate sales, not just illicit sales to China. The question is, do they get that money? Is it just a temporary amount of money? Does it go back to past sales? And is the money going to go into escrow, or are they going to just collect it in Tehran?
Yeah, so
Yes, particularly given, again, the backdrop of this question I still have that has not been asked or answered. It's just, I thought the Iranians were going to have to underwrite not only their own reconstruction through commerce, the sale of oil, okay, but also underwrite the compensation for the damage they caused in other Gulf states. They were going to be on the hook to make good the damage, repairs, and reconstruction in places like Qatar and UAE for the strikes that they launched against their Gulf state neighbors. What's happened to that? Yeah, how does the money flow here? Is this just the reins are off and they can run wild and do how they see fit, so long as they hew to the particulars of not pursuing nuclear program, of this is also sort of a question mark of not underwriting terrorist proxies, of moving over the next 60 days to some formalized construct for the United States to obtain or ensure the destruction of the enriched uranium. Trey Gowdy, a former rep, former Armed Services Committee member when he was a congresshuman, on the Iranian deal, he's perplexed on sort of one general takeaway here.
I mean, are you placated by the fact that the money would come from the Qataris or from Saudi Arabia and not us? It's still going to be used for weapons, and I'm pretty sure that the lifting of economic sanctions takes place immediately, and I'm pretty sure that the removal of the blockade takes place immediately. So, look, Iran is a richer country as a result of this MOU. And they lost the war. That's the part I can't get my head around. They lost. And they're coming out of this richer with this little phrase called downblend, which they're just going to wait him out and hope for a president that is focused on something else. And then they're going to upblend again. This is never going to change until you remove it all or remove the regime.
312-642-5600, alphawealthgroup.com, call and text line. You know, the downblend, upblend, talking about the uranium. And one of the questions that was asked, because the Iranians are pressing the issue, is, well, what about a domestic nuclear program that is not for the purpose of developing weapons, but for the purpose of providing electricity, power for the domestic economy? And, the previous position has been, sure, you can have a domestic energy program that includes nuclear, like anybody else, but you need to color inside the lines. This is what Trump had to say about it.
Well, I've said to them always, I say, look, you have probably the third largest oil reserves in the world. What the hell do you need nuclear for? You need nuclear for some electricity. So I've always felt that way. So we've been pretty tough in that. It is a little hard, though, when you say that somebody wants it, other people have it, other adjoining states have it, and you're not letting them have it for purposes of electricity and things like that. It's always a little tough. You have to use a little common sense, please.
Joe in Naperville, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Yeah, 2 quick points. I love it how the pundits pile on the American military for depleting their stock, and it's going to take forever and forever to build, but Iran is going to be able to do it overnight. The other thing is, didn't the Marshall Plan work in World War II, and isn't this similar to that?
The Marshall Plan was after the Third Reich had been deposed, wasn't it? Do I have that right, Joe? That's the difference. Is that a big difference? The malign regime had been defeated and actually decapitated, and then the Marshall Plan was implemented? Is that what's happened in Iran? Bill, Northwest Side.
Yeah, the memorandum should actually say that the Iranians will not acquire or create a nuclear weapon until the next Democrat is elected president.
I think it's implied. Thanks for the call, Bill. But maybe not limited to the Democrat. Nick, Northwest Side.
Yeah, thank you. You know what this is because that's why I listen to your show. The Budapest Memorandum. That's another memorandum that did not go too well. We'll see how this one goes. But as you know, that was after the USSR fell apart and Ukraine, being one of the republics that were brought in and made to be a part of USSR, had nuclear weapons in its country. And the Ukrainians didn't want any nuclear weapons. They wanted Russia to take them back. And as a guarantee that nobody would take advantage of Ukraine in a weakened state, 3 countries, USA, United Kingdom, and Russia, the former USSR, would protect Ukraine. Ironically, that's how it worked out. And, of course, we see how that worked out. So let's hope that this memorandum goes better. And Trump's just got to be aware he's dealing with a pit full of snakes there. Okay, that's it.
Thanks for the call, Nick. Folding in something Neil Ferguson posted on X. Neil Ferguson, one of the great living historians. Before I join in the swelling chorus of former Obama and Biden officials rushing to write op-eds denouncing the MOU or the Middle East hawks decrying it as an instrument of U.S. surrender, it's important to remember that a piece of paper by itself is not a peace, P-E-A-C-E. For peace is made as much by actions as by words, and as much by the unforeseen consequences of diplomacy as by the intended ones. The Trump administration prides itself on its realism. That is why key figures seem to feel no compunction about pulling the plug on the Israelis, and deeply disappointing many of their Arab friends in the Persian Gulf, too. Yet Trump is as much at the mercy of unpredictable historical events as Woodrow Wilson before him. Right now, Trump's 14 points look as wretched as Wilson's 14 points looked splendid in 1918, but who can be sure what lies ahead? What if the most perilous time for Iran's horrible regime is not when it is under intense bombardment, but when it makes peace and smells the approach of boatloads of money? What if at the same time it turns out that the IRGC's equally blood-soaked Confederate, Vlad Putin, is in deeper trouble than we realize with his war in Ukraine? And what if the reason oil prices didn't go even higher than they did in the past 4 months is that China's domestic economy is in free fall, as some numbers indicate? What if, in short, President Trump's luck holds, as it has held so often throughout his 80 years of often reckless risk-taking? In the end, the wording of this lousy memorandum of understanding may matter less than the second and third order consequences of Trump's Iran war. The economic consequences to date have certainly been far less damaging than I foresaw earlier in the conflict. Maybe, just maybe, the same will turn out to be true of the geopolitical consequences. Maybe. Sure. But I would, that's a fair analysis and good historical reference, Wilson's 14 points. Oh, yeah, splendid. And then we were right back, weren't we? In the not too distant future at a horrible cost. But I mean, you still have to assess the quality of the arguments being made and the content of the agreement and the enforcement mechanisms in real time to say, yes, there's always the possibility, but on balance, do these important segments of the deal make sense from the American perspective? What's in our interest? Is it more likely than not that this will serve America's security interests, even medium term? And you make judgments, and yes, and then history bears it out. And then, yes, it will depend on the specific performance. It will depend on the pivoting based on the competing interests, the performance of the competing interests, of course. Chet Lyle, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Good morning, Dan. This doesn't pass the eye test. It defies all common sense. It'll be interesting to see what administration officials maybe resign as a result of this outcome, and it may not be until after the midterms. And lastly, if anybody wants to hear a really thorough line-by-line analysis, I'll go into the School of War podcast by Aaron McLean that dropped last night.
Yeah.
With Elliot Cohen.
Thanks for the call, Chet. I have that, and we'll pick up this discussion with Aaron McLean at 6:06. It's now 6 o'clock at AM 560 WIND.
They signed it separately and digitally. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. And Iran's president just posted on X after agreeing to end the conflict with the U.S. Peace will be realized in the shadow of mutual respect, though President Trump says
it's a memorandum of understanding. If it doesn't get done in 60 days, that's all right. We go back to bombing. You know, I don't want to do that because it's so good. But we might have to.
The president signed it at the end of the G7 summit in France, saying he wanted to avoid an economic catastrophe, opening the Strait of Hormuz to oil and other shipping and lifting the U.S. blockade of Iran's ports. But as Fox's Trey Yingst reports, talks continue.
It is opening up these more detailed negotiations as it relates to Iran's nuclear program. And U.S. officials have indicated that the missile program and the support of regional proxies is something that will be discussed during this time as well. Certainly, there are Gulf countries that are concerned also, because they saw the incoming Iranian fire during Operation Epic Fury. But again, this is a ceasefire extension. This is not the broad peace deal that the United States is looking for with Iran.
Iran also gets sanctions relief and access to unfrozen assets and a reconstruction fund. Some Republicans in Congress are critical. Democratic Senate Leader Chuck Schumer posted on X, we're worse off than before the war started. Oil prices are falling more than 1%. Gas is down again. AAA's national average for regular now $3.99 a gallon. That is 57 cents less than the peak of the price surge last month. Still about $1 more than before the Iran conflict started. There's a NATO meeting in Brussels. War Secretary Pete Hegseth is there.
It needs to go back to a real hardline military alliance.
Referred to by Secretary Hegseth as NATO 3.0, capable of deterring any threat. He's promising to be candid about what the United States expects allies to do to make that happen. The Trump administration wants to be less involved in defending Europe. Last year, at a summit of NATO leaders, most members promised to spend more on defense.
That's Jonathan Savage. America's listening to Fox News.
Skies are clear this morning. We have sunshine in Chicago, 64 degrees. On AM 560, The Answer. Good morning. I'm Mike Scott in the QC Kinetics newsroom. Tornadoes caused injuries in the Midwest. Several tornadoes touched down in Illinois, including one that caused major injuries in the city of Charleston. Declared a state of emergency after a confirmed tornado struck town. This firefighter was rushing to his station in nearby Lincoln when the violent storms struck.
So I was responding to my first call with the storm, and I felt my truck shake and a loud pop, and lightning struck my truck. It went completely dark. Indicator lights came on, and I just literally texted my chief and said, hey, I can't go anywhere.
Tornadoes also struck the city of Effingham and destroyed parts of the town of Teutopolis. Chicago area candidate for Congress says a teen takeover arrived like a storm at a Chicago grocery store. Here's our reporter, Jim Talamonte.
Christian Maxwell is running for the House seat currently held by U.S. Rep. Jonathan Jackson. Maxwell said there were a few teens and police units outside the Hyde Park Trader Joe's when she and her 4 kids entered the store Monday evening. But the dynamic quickly changed.
I didn't know initially, but it was because the full teen takeover had arrived kind of like a storm. It was that quick. So it went from being a few kids to hundreds of kids.
Maxwell said there were adult men mixed in with the teens.
They have on balaclavas or they have on masks, like the COVID-19 mask, and they're in full black attire and they have bags.
Maxwell said the takeover devolved into several brawls at area businesses, but she was not aware of any injuries. I'm Jim Talamonte.
Police say no signs of foul play in the death of 3 family members in Buffalo Grove. Cook County Medical Examiner's Office identified the victims as 88-year-old Helen Cavins, 81-year-old Harold Cavins, and 60-year-old Mark Cavins. They all lived together. The 2 older family members were under hospice care. Cubs beat the Rockies 8-6, while the White Sox lost to the Yankees 10-5. The news, a service of Woodland Windows and Doors. Welcome a Woodland sales expert into your home, and you'll get a no-pressure sale, a product expert and a design consultant, and someone who has your best interest in mind. Visit woodlandwindows.com to get started. A check of the roads in 2 minutes on AM 560.
Your home is a valuable asset, and you want to take care of your home. From roofs, siding, windows and doors, to furnaces, flooring, landscaping, and much more. Listen to your go-to for all things home. It's Home Answers Radio with your host, Roger Piper. Get answers from industry experts so you can make informed decisions about home improvement. Listen every Saturday at noon for Home Answers right here on AM 560 The Answer. Sponsored in part by JeffBuysYourHouse.com and by Center Guard Plumbing. WIND, Chicago. Sign up for the AM 560 Answer Advantage to get early alerts on event ticket sales, special discounts, and contest opportunities. Sign up today at 560theanswer.com/advantage.
You need a construction company, but who?
Call Croscom.
A construction company you can trust that shares your Christian and conservative values. For decades, Croscom has been doing work in Chicagoland, Northwest Indiana, and Wisconsin. Roofs, siding, windows, doors, gutters, basically everything for your home or business, even solar. Quality work and professional services that make you feel great about your decision to work with Croscom.
Call Croscom.
630-871-5500. Give them a chance to earn your business. If your repairs are due to storm, fire, or flood damage, you need to
call Croscom.
They're licensed public adjusters. They work for you, not the insurance company. Croscom will work to get you the money you deserve, the maximum payout. They know the insurance companies and how to deal with them. They win for you.
Call Croscom.
Croscom Construction and Public Adjusters.
This is Dan Lights with Croscom. You can trust us with your home or business for high-quality work and fair prices. It's the only way we do business.
630-871-5500. CroscomPublicAdjusters.com.
Each morning, the newsmakers and the newsbreakers shaping today's conversation are heard on the AlphaWealthGroup.com answer line on Chicago's Morning Answer. When you need answers about what's happening in your world, you turn to AM 560 The Answer. And when you need answers about how to prepare for and protect your retirement, you turn to the Alpha Wealth Group, now the proud sponsor of the AM 560 Answer line, right here on Chicago's source for news, opinion, and insight. AM 560 The Answer.
Our founders believed that freedom wasn't just a word, it was a way of life. The freedom to move forward, the freedom to pursue what matters most, the freedom to live fully. But pain has a way of taking those freedoms away. That's why Relief Factor exists and why I endorse it. I've seen how many in this audience have regained their freedom and they're back to living life on their own terms. Relief Factor, it's 100% drug-free. It's a research-based supplement designed to help support a healthy inflammatory response, addressing pain at its source, not just covering it up. Over 1 million Americans have found relief and reclaimed parts of their life they thought were behind them. So this year, as we celebrate 250 years of freedom, ask yourself a simple question. Are you living with the freedom you deserve? Relief Factor. They give you the opportunity to live pain-free and to get back to the life you love. To commemorate our country's birth, they are offering a special patriotic price, just $17.76, so you can celebrate your freedom from pain. Your $17.76 3-week quick start is ready for you right now. ReliefFactor.com, 800-4RELIEF. 800, the number 4-RELIEF.
Let me ask you something. Does your garage floor look bad? Covered in salt, cracked, or stained from the winter's brutal blast? Well, I've got a fix for you so you can start enjoying your garage this spring. Contact my good friends at Level 10 Coatings. Level 10 brought my garage floor from dirty and gross to showroom, shiny new in just one day. Level 10 Coatings can do the same for you. A quick and easy fix, permanent durable solution. Guaranteed to never chip or peel. Get it done now so you can enjoy your garage this spring and summer. Schedule your free quote today and mention me, Amy, for $500 off. Visit level10coatings.com. That's level, the number 10, coatings.com. Level10coatings.com or call 855-510-2628. Again, that's 855-510-2628. Level 10 Coatings, your premier concrete coating experts.
Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. Stop and go on the Kennedy this morning. Near Manheim, things are slow as well as you begin your roll on the Reagan I-88 eastbound right near Roosevelt Road. A vehicle fire being cleaned up in Hodgkins, LaGrange Road, and Archer Avenue. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. But first, a check of your morning forecast in our Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center.
It's news.
Today will bring a mix of clouds and sun along with breezy conditions and warmer temperatures. There is a chance of a shower in the area with a high of 76 degrees. Tonight will be mainly clear with a low of 58. Tomorrow is expected to be mostly sunny and comfortable with a high of 77. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
This hourly segment brought to you by Unleash Your Wealth with Raj Shah and Rick Borick this Saturday at 7 a.m. and 2 p.m. Learn more at scwealthadvisors.com.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Before we return to the matter of the MOU with the Iranians President Trump signed yesterday in Versailles, the bottom of this hour, you heard Mike Scott talking about the passing of Tom Dreesen, the great comedian, friend of the show. This last November, he was on the show. I got introduced to him through a mutual friend who's a member at Olympia Fields Country Club with me. And what a treat it was to talk. I talked to Tom Dreesen for, I don't know, an hour and a half privately before he came on the show, and we talked for a good half hour on the show. And to listen to him tell stories and just recount the Chicagoland he knew growing up in Harvey was, and then obviously his career in entertainment, it was just fascinating. What a gentleman he was. And so I just thought on the passing of somebody so important and with the connection to Chicago that he had, we'd reprise that interview because I think it's really interesting. And he was interested in Chicago and wanting to help Chicago where he could, and Harvey specifically, his hometown, to the end of his life. And he talks about that as well. So we'll play that starting in about 10 minutes here and running to the top of the hour. So you want to stay tuned for that. Getting back to Iran and this deal, Chet from Lyle mentioned Aaron McLean, who has a School of War podcast. That's the name of it, as well as background as a national security analyst for CBS. He provided a nice distillation on this. So just to set the foundation here, so we're all sort of talking about the same things. What happens immediately, what happens in 30 days, what happens in 60 days, what happens that is somewhat unknowable past 60 days. Sort of a way to compartmentalize this to get your heads around it. Immediately, the provisions: permanent end to the war on all fronts, including Lebanon, which we've discussed, could be a poison pill. It's Iran's predicate for instigating a violation of the agreement that would nullify it, because they fund Hezbollah, which is launching rockets into Israel, and then Israel responds. Well, that means the war has restarted. Iran is going to blame Israel, say that's violative of the terms, and so all bets are off. I doubt they'll do that, as I said, and as you sort of heard Trey Gowdy say. It's more likely that they wait Trump out. I think one of my takeaways from this is there's really no appetite to dig in here. And so the violations of the terms of this memorandum of understanding will have to be so brazen that the Trump administration cannot ignore them. Otherwise, they will. That's my sense of it. 312-642-5600, alphawealthgroup.com. Call and text line. So immediately, permanent end to the war on all fronts, including Lebanon. The United States lifts the naval blockade. Trump already announced that. The Islamic Republic of Iran will immediately take steps to ensure the movement of merchant ships from the Persian Gulf to the Sea of Oman and vice versa is resumed. That's in process. The U.S. Treasury Department will issue waivers for exports of Iranian crude, petrochemical products, and their derivatives, and all related services, including banking, insurance, transportation, and the like, also underway. Seemingly. That's per the president himself. So that's immediate. Those are the parts that are immediate right now. So this is where you're getting the criticism that I think has merit from many commentators, that essentially the fundamental problem here is that the agreement gives billions to the Iranians up front in return for a faraway promise to change their conduct. And so they get the benefits up front, and then we have to take a wait-and-see attitude for the even medium term. And that seems to be arguably a bit Pollyannish. 30 days out. Both the U.S. and Iran have 30 days to get traffic back to normal as part of lifting their respective blockades. Back to normal. Nobody's, I don't know what normal is, but the point is to say good faith. Nobody is throwing impediments into the free flow of commercial traffic. Okay. 60 days out. Negotiate and reach a final agreement with a maximum period of 60 days. Formulation of an implementation mechanism for a comprehensive plan agreed upon by both parties for the rehabilitation and economic development of the Islamic Republic of Iran, while ensuring financing of at least $300 billion. Again, the billions relatively upfront. Ensuring financing of at least the $300 billion. Not going to come from taxpayers, but by other means through Gulf states, some of whom are net beneficiaries of U.S. foreign aid. And then, the other issues I mentioned before about reconstruction of Iran being financed by the Gulf states as opposed to the reconstruction of Iran and the reconstruction of parts of the Gulf states that were hit by the Iranians by Iran, too. Seems to be the reverse of what was telegraphed earlier in this process. 60 days still. The fate of the enriched material and the fate of all of the mutually agreed nuclear-related issues, including Iran's nuclear needs. Address that at the bottom of last hour. Agreeing to a schedule for all types of sanctions currently facing the Islamic Republic of Iran to be ended. So, basically, you're looking at a 60-day horizon for Iran to be completely unshackled, so long as they are playing ball consistent with this agreement. Can they keep it together and play ball for 60 days to realize all of these financial benefits? Probably. And then what? Post 60 days, unclear timeline. The U.S. undertakes to withdraw its forces from the surrounding areas within 30 days after the final agreement. This, of course, is about the blockade and military presence there. Trump says we'll keep it for a while to ensure that the strait is open, that no violation of international law like the imposition of tolls is happening. Withdraw its forces from the surrounding areas. United States undertakes to withdraw its forces from the surrounding areas within 30 days. Surrounding areas needs probably more definition. In light of progress of negotiations toward a final agreement, frozen or unrestricted funds and assets of the Islamic Republic of Iran will be released and made fully available. An implementation mechanism will be established to oversee the successful implementation of and future commitment to the final agreement, a binding UN Security Council resolution approving the final agreement. So there's your immediate 30, 60, post-60 breakout. The bottom line, as Aaron McLean offers, immediately or within 30 days, Iran gets permanent end to war, including Lebanon, sanctions waivers, and a lifting of the U.S. blockade. Iran gives the ending of its own blocking of the strait. All other issues are punted to the 60-day extended, vague future timeline. Good deal? 312-642-5600, alphawealthgroup.com, call and text line. Chris, Rogers Park.
It doesn't matter. Like I watched Abby Phillips show last night, and they're all talking about this deal. It's not a deal. You can wipe your butt with the piece of paper. All he's doing is getting the straits over. He's got the blockade on. He's like Derek Chauvin with the knee on the neck, okay? But he's not banging it in there. He's just sitting there visually with the knee on the neck. He's taking the knee off. He's going to let gas prices plummet so he can win the midterms. And then he's tapping them along. That's what's going on here.
And then what happens after what happens after he wins the midterms in your scenario?
Well, it goes back to the same thing. So if Iran does the Renee Good thing and drives a truck at us, then he's justified in shooting a bunch of missiles over there.
I mean, we need to work on your metaphors first and foremost. The Derek Chauvin, the Renee Good. I don't think Trump would find either of those metaphors flattering. By the way, Chris,
it would be helpful. But by the way, this whole thing was a mistake from the beginning. But what he's doing, he understands that people like if you stick your hand in cold water, like ice cold water, and then you stick it in lukewarm water, you think that water's hot, right? So people are going to respond in the elections to gas prices. That's what it's all going to be about. Nobody cares about this Iran war. We're just getting through the midterms. Just gas prices.
Thanks for the call, Chris.
It's like a hot, steaming cup of information to start your day. It's Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer. Picture warm Gulf breezes, turquoise waters, white sand beaches. Now, add evenings of conversation with Salem Media's Mike Gallagher, Scott Jennings, Larry O'Connor, and Jennifer Horn. This November, sail from Fort Lauderdale to the Bahamas, Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, and Mexico on a 7-day journey built for those who love this country. Book your cabin today when you text the word cruise to 94878. Celebrate America's 250th anniversary the right way on the Gulf of America Cruise. Book your cabin now. Text the word cruise to 94878.
Your kitchen's outdated. Your bathroom feels cramped. Every day you wait, prices go up. And you keep living in a space that doesn't work. At Forever Remodeling, one team handles everything. Design, planning, and installation, start to finish. We show you your new space in 3D before we ever break ground. No surprises. With flexible financing options, the home you want is closer than you think. Visit foreverremodeling.com. That's the number 4, everremodeling.com to schedule your personalized in-home design consultation.
AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. All right, as promised at the top of the hour, this is my conversation with the late, great Tom Dreesen from back in November of last year. It was wide-ranging, and it was just such a treat, and we got such great reaction to it as well, and not just from former or current Harvey residents. But Tom Dreesen was a beloved figure in Chicagoland for all kinds of obvious reasons, and if you have forgotten, you'll be reminded when you listen to what he has to say on the full range of topics. Here it is. So a couple weeks ago, when the story broke that the city of Harvey was essentially throwing up its hands and enlisting the state to come in and run its finances because it could no longer pay its bills, I sort of made the offhanded remark that I don't even think Tom Dreesen can save Harvey at this point, of course, because Tom Dreesen, famous native son of Harvey, Illinois, great entertainer. And as luck would have it, from the Small World files. Tom and I actually have a mutual friend in common. It's an odd thing for me to think that we have a mutual friend in common, but we do. And my friend sent a clip of that little segment to Tom and connected us, and so we had a chat. And as we were talking, and Tom was gracious with his time and telling stories about Harvey and his perspective on things, and talked a little bit about Hollywood, as you might with somebody who has had a 5-decade-plus career in entertainment. I just said, I think Chicagoans would love to hear from Tom Dreesen, his perspective on his hometown and just more generally on entertainment and culture these days. And so that's how it happened. It's sort of one of those happenstance things, almost like how Tom Dreesen recalls getting hooked up with the chairman of the board, of course, Frank Sinatra.
If you played a word association game with me when I was growing up in Harvey, if you said tall, I'd say short. If you say black, I'd say white. If you said show business, I said Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, and Sammy Davis Jr. And the vice president of Harrah's Hotel, a man named Holmes Hendrickson, very powerful guy in those days, saw me, and he was talking to a guy with a cigar. He said, Tommy, come here. I went over and he said, Tommy, this is Mickey Rudin. Well, I recognize the name. That was Sinatra's lawyer. He said, Mickey, this is Tom Dreesen, and I think Tom would make a great opening act for Frank Sinatra. So they called me and they said, a week later, would you like to work 1 week with Frank Sinatra? And I thought, this is going to be fun. And the second night I was with him, we went out to dinner, and he laid down his knife and his fork in the middle of the meal. He said, I like your material, and I like your style. I'd like you to do a few other dates with me if you're interested. And I didn't say, let me check my calendar. I said, yeah. And it turned into 45, 50 cities a year for almost 14 years.
And we're pleased to be joined now by Tom Dreesen. Tom, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
I'm happy to do that, Dan. One thing they left out of that clip, they edited out, but he said to me, Mickey Rudin, Frank Sinatra's lawyer, was being facetious, and he winked at the vice president of Harrah's Hotel, and he said, hey, kid, if I gave you a week with Frank, would you want more than $50,000? I said, Mr. Rudin, put it this way, if you gave me a week with Frank, would you want more than $50,000?
Yeah, right, exactly.
He started laughing. He said, hey, I like this kid. And that whenever people say, how did you get a job with Frank? I said, from being glib at the right time. That sort of hooked me up. And it was a fantastic run, and I miss the guy every day. It was so exciting touring with him,
people can only imagine, which is why it's so fun to hear you tell stories about it. By the way, I should mention, too, stories in his autobiography, Tom Dreesen's I'm talking about, Still Standing, my journey from streets and saloons to the stage and Sinatra. TomDreesen.com is the website. You can order the book there. But just even going back before Sinatra, your sort of improbable career from, the streets and saloons, but from Harvey, Illinois as a young man to Hollywood and beyond. I mean, how did it happen?
I never thought I'd be in show business. It was the furthest thought in my mind, show business. I just never thought I would. And I was wandering aimlessly. I had a wife and 3 kids. I had just gotten out of the service. I spent 4 years in the military, and I joined a civic group called the JCs. In those days, they're very prominent around the United States. And I wrote a drug the JCs attacked the problems of the community in 50 states and in 22 foreign countries. And in doing so, there was they had leadership training programs, how to speak in front of an audience, how to conduct meetings, Robert's Rules of Order, how to serve on committees, how to chair committees. And I was learning all these things, and one of the problems in our community was that our young kids were using drugs, as in today. So I wrote a drug education program teaching 8th graders the ills of drug abuse with humor. As a concept, I had to get the kids laughing and play some records and then afterward, once you got them relaxed, plant the seeds of the ills of drug abuse and the specific drugs that were being used in our community. Helping me with that project was a young black man who just graduated from Norfolk State College, and E.I. DuPont recruited him into Chicago as a marketing rep. And we went into the classrooms, and the program became very, very successful. JCs use it as a model program and through their publications in 50 states and in 22 foreign countries. And it became very popular. And the children, we got over right away because the children were integrated. It was black and white in Harvey. And so Tim and I were two young guys and having a lot of fun. One day, a little 8th grade girl in Harvey said, her name is Vicky Sarufka. I still remember her. She's a friend. She was in 8th grade at the time. She was leaving the classroom, and she said, "You guys are funny. You ought to become a comedy team." And the thought of a black-white comedy team intrigued us because no one had ever done that before. So we started writing material, and we became America's first black and white comedy team. And history shows we were the last. In those days, there weren't any comedy clubs in America. So we had to work what they call the Chitlin Circuit, black-owned, black-operated nightclubs. Like in Chicago, the High Chaparral, the Burning Spear, the Cotton Club, Guys and Gals Lounge, and all around the country, black-owned, black-operated nightclubs, as well as white nightclubs as well, the Playboy Circuit and stuff. So we stayed together 6 years, and then the team split up, and, the rest is history. Tim Reed went on to become Venus Flytrap on WKRP Cincinnati. He was on a show called Sister Sister. He was on several sitcoms. We're still the best of friends today, and his children call me Uncle Tom. How about that?
It's cool. And you guys did a book about your time together as a comedy team too, didn't you?
Yeah, it was called Tim and Tom, an American classic in black and white, and it was about that era, that time. Think of the backdrop. In 1969, Tim Reed and I went on stage for the first time. There weren't any comedy clubs in America, as I mentioned, but the America was in turmoil. There were race riots all over the United States. In fact, Harvey had one of the biggest race riots in the country, and not African Americans feeling disenfranchised from the system were rioting, and then also students were protesting the Vietnam War all over the country. America was in turmoil, and so we went anywhere there was racial tension. We would go, high schools, colleges. We did 11 prisons in 1 year. We did the county jail in Chicago on 26 in California 3 times. We didn't preach. We just were making people laugh. And one of the things that I will take to my grave, as well as Tim and I talk about this often, I can't tell you how many times wherever we went in America, at some point, a young black kid would come up and say, I got a white friend that I really like a lot, but if I reach out to him, the brothers are going to, call me names and stuff. But after watching you and Tim, I'm going to reach out to my white friend. Then a white kid would come up and say, I got a black friend that I kind of like a lot, and we get along good, but the white guy's going to call me names if I start running with my black friend. But because of you and Tim, watching you and Tim today, I'm going to reach out to my black friend. Because in those days, you didn't see a black guy and a white guy walking down the street together, let alone on a stage together.
Yeah, I mean, that's really an indelible mark. I mean, you guys predate like Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor doing artistic work together.
Absolutely, and one of the routines Tim and I would do in a nightclub, where we did a routine where Tim was teaching me how to be black. Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor did that same routine in a movie. like 15 years later,
Stir
everybody
crazy.
knew that was sure, exactly, yeah. So we again, I never thought I'd be in show business, and then that led me on to, after the team split up, onto the Tonight Show, and then the rest is history. I've had a wonderful career.
Well, that's got to be, a source of great pride for both of you to be ahead of the learning curve there, and to be a constructive influencers on positive race relations, which frankly we still struggle with today.
It's interesting. Everywhere you'd go in America today, people will say, we need better race relations. We need better race relations in America. You know what people were saying in 1969? We need today in America? We need better race relations.
Yeah, right. Right.
Tim and I were having a race relation. That's what they saw us on stage. We were on stage relating to one another, making people laugh. We were having a relationship that America wasn't having. Our book, David Letterman, when he read the manuscript, he told me, he said, you should call your book Before Your Time.
Yeah, right.
Because you were before your time.
Well,
we said it.
It's one of those things where sometimes the arts and sports are ahead of culture. Sometimes they're just reflective of culture. Sometimes they're ahead of culture. I mean, you think of like Hoskins at UTEP fielding an all-black starting five in the NCAA championship game against Adolph Thrupp Kentucky Wildcats, and that was sort of a seminal moment in sports. Obviously, Jackie Robinson breaking the color barrier is another one that predates that by almost 2 decades. But those sorts of moments where the arts and entertainment, including sports, really do help to advance the flag of American values, which is people getting along regardless of their backgrounds.
No question about it. And Frank Sinatra's relationship with Sammy Davis Jr. way back in the day.
Yeah.
When black people would be performing in Las Vegas in a hotel, but they couldn't stay in that hotel. They had to stay, Sammy used to call it, they said we had to stay in Color Town. And then Frank Sinatra went to the owners and said, if Sammy can't stay in this hotel, then I can't stay in this hotel, and I won't perform here. And that changed the whole, Quincy Jones and Count Basie have always given Frank Sinatra credit for that.
All right, we'll be back at 6:36 with part 2 of my interview with Tom Dreesen from last November as we remember the late, great Tom Dreesen. Now we turn it over to Mike Scott for the headlines.
Sunshine and 63 in the QC Kinetics newsroom. Tornadoes caused injuries in the Midwest. Several tornadoes touching down last night across Illinois, including Charleston and in places like Effingham and Teutopolis, where there is major damage this morning. President Trump says the 60-day timeline to negotiate with Iran is not a hard deadline. Claims the G7 summit went well. According to text of the Memorandum of Understanding, the U.S. and Iran committed to negotiating during the maximum 60 days. An oil refinery in Russia has been attacked by Ukrainian drones today. The Obama Presidential Center opens today in Chicago's Jackson Park. Tropical storm Arthur pummeling parts of the Gulf Coast with 45-mile-an-hour winds today. A plan to hold parents accountable for the actions of their kids when it comes to those teen riding takeovers fails to gain any traction in Chicago's City Council. City Council members rejecting the plan of Alderman Ray Lopez. And Chicago taxpayers may need to shell out more than $400 million to pay for upgrades at the site of the new Chicago Fire Soccer Stadium on the near South Side. Chicago sports finds the Cubs winners over the Rockies 8-6 and the White Sox falling to the Yankees in the Bronx. The news, a service of the AM 560 mobile app at 560theanswer.com. A check of the roads in 2 minutes on AM 560.
Sign up for the AM 560 Answer Advantage to get early alerts on event ticket sales, special discounts, and contest opportunities. Sign up today at 560theanswer.com/advantage.
Are you turning 65 and thinking about Medicare? Or are you over 65 and haven't enrolled yet because you still have coverage at work? Either way, Medicare done correctly will be the best health insurance you will ever have. Imagine having an annual deductible of only $283. There are only two good things about aging, wisdom and Medicare. But to navigate the Medicare maze properly, you need a mentor. Best part? My guidance costs you nothing. Call me. I can help.
If you're tired of calling a bureaucrat at an 800 number to help you navigate Medicare, then you need a local expert on your side. Your own health insurance mentor. C. Stephen Tucker from healthinsurancementors.com is someone I know and trust. He's a 30-year licensed broker who's been educating our listeners for more than a decade. Steve, how can our listeners get in touch with you?
Thanks, Dan. They can visit healthinsurancementors.com or call me directly at 630-674-1551. That's 630-674-1551.
If you're over 65 and struggling with knee pain, Joint Relief Institute offers a guaranteed way to treat it. It's non-surgical and often covered by Medicare and private insurance. It's JRI's Joint Arthritis Treatment, knee lubrication placement that's so accurate, it's 100% guaranteed and can relieve your knee and shoulder pain in 10 minutes or less. Book your risk-free consultation today and get back to walking, golfing, pickleball to cycling without pain or medication. Call 708-315-6800. Meet the provider, get an x-ray and joint consultation. Why wait? JRI has treated over 30,000 Chicagoans and performed over 400,000 procedures. You could be next. Over 5,000 five-star Google reviews can't be wrong.
Stop living in pain. Call the Joint Relief Institute today, 708-315-6800, or visit jointreliefinstitute.com. Locations in Glenview, Oak Brook, and Orland Park. That's 708-315-6800 for the Joint Relief Institute. Medicare and most private insurance plans accepted.
Giving your liver a spring cleaning is easy with Active Liver from New Nordic. Search for Active Liver by New Nordic on Amazon, CVS, Wegmans, or GNC.
Team Hotburg Traffic Center time. Lamont, an accident, semi in the ditch. State Street, north of 127th. Batavia, an accident with injuries, Kirk and Latham. And in Elmhurst, an accident, Butterfield and York. Report of an accident on the Tri-State this morning. 2 center lanes blocked. Northbound 294 between 87th to right before Archer Avenue. Traffic, a service of Aleve. At some point, body pain may creep in and become your reality that day, but Aleve is here to keep you moving. One pill gives you up to 12 hours of body pain relief. Don't let pain hold you back. Try Aleve today. Use as directed. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but first, check of your morning forecast in the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center. Clouds and sun, perhaps a morning shower, breezy by the afternoon, and a high of 74.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
All right, here's part 2 of my interview with the late, great Tom Dreesen, comedian, entertainer, philanthropist. This was from back in November of last year. And we get into his connection to Chicago, up to present time at that point last November. Here it is.
Just going back to your youth in Harvey, and I know you still maintain a connection to it up until recently even, but what was that like, and what do you have perspective on what Harvey and sort of South Suburban Cook County, had become once you were gone and onto your career?
Well, let me describe Harvey when I was growing up. It was a thriving metropolis with steel mills and factories, all kinds of industry. We had Ingalls and Shepherd, Alice Chalmer, Buda Corporation, Whiting Corporation, Perfection Gear, Allied Steel, all these, business. They made everything. These factories made everything from clutch plates to crankshafts. And it was a thriving metropolis. The main drag, 154th Street, for like 7 blocks, there was businesses, one right next door to the other. There were Woolworth and J.C. Penney's, Eagle Store, grocery stores, bakeries, bowling alleys. We had 2 different bowling alleys. We had 3 movie theaters. Harvey was a thriving metropolis. And because of the industry we had there, people worked in Harvey, shopped in Harvey, and banked in Harvey. And it was very... it's a wonderful place to grow up, and as you know today, they cannot survive financially, and they've now appealed to the state to try to come and bail them out.
Yeah, I mean it's sort of a sad trajectory, and it's something that's happened not just to Harvey, but to that whole region in which you grew up. I mean, you're the pride of Thornton Township High School too, I should mention. So. You spent a good deal of time there, and I think there's a lot of people that have recall to that time or shortly thereafter when you were growing up, and can't believe what's happened to bigger parts of the metropolitan region in Chicago, just as we see a lot of metropolitan areas in this country sort of disintegrating before our very eyes.
I go back, ironically, when I was a little boy selling newspapers, we had 8 kids. We actually lived in a shack. We were very poor. There was 4 boys and 4 girls. A rat-infested, roach-infested shack. If a window broke, you stuck a rag in it. If you got holes in your shoes, you put cardboard in it. So I shined shoes in taverns. I set pins in bowling alleys. I caddied in the summertime. I sold newspapers on the corner, all to help feed my brothers and sisters, and none of this do I regret. There was a mantra in Harvey when I was growing up that you only deserve in life what you work for. That was in all the communities. You only deserve in life what you work for. And so as a little boy, I had my shoe shine box and I went out and I didn't think anything of it. None of this do I regret, by the way. I consider that one of the greatest things that ever happened to me, to be able to do that. But one of the corners I sold newspapers on was 155th Street in Harvey. And one day while I was selling newspapers, all the horns were blowing and cars were coming from everywhere. And I said to one of the elders, "What's going on?" They said, "Tom, it's Lou Boudreau Day." I said, "Lou Boudreau?" They said, "Tom, Lou Boudreau, he went to Thornton High School, took him down to the state championship 3 years in a row as a captain of the basketball team, and they won the state championship basketball. And and Lou Boudreau, and he went on to University of Illinois, where he was captain of their teams, basketball and baseball. Then he went to the Cleveland Indians, and he played shortstop. And at age 24, he was a player manager, the youngest player manager in baseball, and they won the World Series. And we're honoring him here today. On that corner of 155th Street was the Elks Club, and Lou Boudreau came in there with all of these celebrities. And then they came out, and I quick sold my newspapers. I went down there, and I watched this man from Harvey, Illinois, who was famous. And he left there, and all the people were cheering. And I walked home that day as a little boy, and I began to fantasize. I said, wow, somebody from Harvey is famous. And I, like little boys do, I was thinking maybe one day they'll have a parade for me, the band, and I'm fantasizing all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
August 22nd, 1992, I went back to Harvey, Illinois, and that street corner where I had seen Lou Boudreau and all that 155th Street where I sold newspapers, they named that Dreesen Street. And the man who introduced me to the crowd was Lou Boudreau.
Wow, I've talked about full circle. Interesting.
Full circle.
Wow.
Yeah, and so that my pride in Harvey, it goes way back then. So I go back to Harvey all the time when I can. I've gone back to the high school, Thornton, and I've given motivation talks to the students because I do that for corporate America, and I do it at universities and stuff on 4 subjects. I talk about perception, visualization, self-talk, and develop a sense of humor, and I elaborate on those 4 points. And I talk to the students there, and I enjoy doing that. And to get to one of the problems in Harvey, and you and I had this discussion the other day, and that's when you asked me to come on and talk about it. When Mayor Clark first became mayor, I think it was in 2019 of Harvey, a nice man, he contacted me and he said, I'd like to talk to you about some of the problems we're having here in Harvey and get some of your thoughts on that. And I said, sure. And I was going to be in Chicago doing some shows. And so I flew in, and we were going to meet at Gibson's and have lunch. And I thought it was just going to be him and I. And he came with the chief of police, the fire chief. He came with members of the city council, members of his staff. And so we all sat down and had lunch. And, he asked me for some ideas. And I said, here's an idea I'm going to throw out to you. And let me finish, because I know you're going to all wrinkle your noses and poo-poo this idea before I even get started. But let me explain what I'm thinking about. Harvey needs industry. As I talked to you earlier, and told you about Ingalls and Shepherd, Alice Chalmer, Buda, Viking Corporation, Perfection Gear, Allied Steel. It needs industry in there to bring in the tax base and put people back to work. I said, President Trump, that was his first election. I said, he's being accused oftentimes of being a racist. I said, I don't believe he is a racist. I said, but here's a chance for you to find out. Suppose I can get to President Trump and I can say, the town I grew up in needs your expertise. Can you help bring businesses into Harvey, Illinois? And it's a win-win situation for Harvey. And they're already going, there's shifting the chairs and everything.
Yeah, I bet.
And I'm laughing, but I said, here, it's a win-win situation. Say he doesn't do it. Say he ignores us and doesn't even comment. Well, then you rest your case. You think he's a racist. I don't. But what if he does? What if he does come there? And what if he can give you ideas and help bring industry to Harvey? Then it's a win-win situation. Well, nobody liked the idea, needless to say. But I really believe that might have been the answer to the problem. I really believe that that's what Harvey needs. It needs industry. It needs, it went from 36,000 or 37,000 people to now 18,000 people. And they're good people in Harvey. The students at Thornton High School, wonderful. The teachers, and I when I go back, I'm so proud of them.
You still get a good response from the kids when you go back and talk?
Yeah, yes. And I'll tell you something interesting. Years ago, when Tim and I were lecturing on drugs to grade school children, when we'd go into the classrooms in those days, it would take you 10 to 15 minutes to quiet the students down. The students were like taking control of the classrooms. That's not the case anymore. At Thornton High School, they've got good leadership there, and they tell the students, we came here to teach, and you came here to learn. And if you disrupt that process, you're gone. In 1 year, they had, way back in the day, they had 32 suspensions from the school. And the following year, they had 3, because the teachers took over and said, we're here to teach, and you're here to learn. And so when I go back, there's great pride in the high school and their athletic skills. I mean, as well as their academic skills. So the students are very attentive and ask me a lot of questions because I'm one of them. I grew up in Harvey in a shack, as I told you, very poor, raggedy poor. And I put all that aside, and I teach them that you're not victims. And I give an analogy. I talk to the seniors, and I say, I'm not going to give you a biology lesson, but when the male and the female make love, from the male comes 5 million seeds. Did you know that? 2.5 million die instantly. The other millions die along the way. And soon there's only 100,000 seeds left. And then later there's 50,000. Pretty soon there's only 10 seeds left. And there's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you. You. Don't ever tell me you're a victim. Don't ever tell me you didn't ask to be here. You fought to be here. You were born a winner. You were born a victor.
That's a pretty interesting sort of combination of sex ed and inspirational sort of motivational agency type of advocacy. I like it. That's pretty good. I can see why they respond to that. I mean, I think just what you said, it's the simplicity of it is elegant, but it really does seem lost. And I'm not just limiting this to Harvey, of course, the idea that you're entitled to nothing other than what you work to get. That just seems like something that is a controversial statement these days.
Well, I tell them that. Look, I tell them that how I grew up at, and by the way, at one time both my parents were alcoholic, and my mom later got out of that. My father died drinking, so all these things that happened to me is happening to some of them. But I put that aside, and I said, no, I'm not a victim. I'm a victor, and there's nothing out there that you can't accomplish if you put your mind to it. And I tell them what books to read and all that sort of things. And
and I think part of like just the story of you having lunch with Harvey city officials too is where a lot of people are at, which is, is it possible for us to put our political differences together and just do what is pragmatic to improve a situation? And I wonder how that played out in Hollywood for you and others of your sort of can-do attitude over the decades in the entertainment industry. I don't know how much Hollywood has changed in terms of the importance of political positioning and people speaking out. I mean, I know Frank Sinatra, going back, supported FDR but was friends with Reagan and supported Reagan. So I don't know how. Be interested in your perspective on how that was treated, maybe 50 or 60 years ago versus how that's treated now. But getting past the politics of this, because of course, we hear all the horror stories of people being canceled or marginalized for their politics. The shows that couldn't be made today. Mel Brooks couldn't have a career today. That's what Mel Brooks says. Things like that. And I just wonder how you've seen that evolve or devolve, because it's sort of the same thing as politics inhibiting people from working together.
It's funny you mentioned Mel Brooks. I did the movie Spaceballs with Mel.
Yeah,
I know Mel, and I love him. He's a funny guy. But Mel Brooks' movie Blazing Saddles, I made a joke about it a while back at a public gathering. I said ABC decided they're going to put Blazing Saddles on, but the politically correct police want to edit things out of the movie, so the movie would be shown from 8 o'clock to 8:07.
Exactly. That's about it. Right.
Well, there's no question that Hollywood. I'll tell you a story. Gary Sinise and I are the best of friends. By the way, Gary lived in Harvey for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And then he went from Harvey to Blue Island, and then from there to Highland Park. So Gary Sinise and I have been friends for years, and we were sitting in a restaurant several years ago, maybe a dozen years ago, called La Logia, a little restaurant where a lot of Hollywood people went in Sherman Oaks, or Studio City, it's in. So we're eating, and all the industry people are watching. Gary and I are talking about the Bulls, the Bears, and the Blackhawks, and I'm talking, loud, and Gary, and what about this and what about that? And then we start talking about our core values, and we started whispering. And I said, I stopped in the middle of it. I said, do you see what I'm doing? I spent 4 years in the military. I love my country. I believe in God, and I love my country, and I love this industry that we're in. I've been in it now over 55 years in show business, and I love show business. I love the people in it. But I'm whispering my core values for fear of retaliation by our industry. And Gary said, yeah, there must be more like us, in the industry. We start talking about it. And we got together with Gary set it up with about 10 people at a restaurant called Morton's one night, and we just discussed our core values. And then we decided, well, let us have another lunch meeting, and each guy bring in somebody else that you know in our business, a writer, a producer, a director, an actor, a comedian, a grip, but anybody in show business who might have our core values. And there were like 40 people at that luncheon. And then pretty soon we had another luncheon, there was another 40, and pretty soon we went to one of the actors in Hollywood decided to have a party at the house, and there's 160 of us. And then Kelsey Grammer had a party at his house. There was 680, and pretty soon there was 2,000 of us: writers, producers, directors, grips, people like Robert Duvall, Clint Eastwood, John Voight, and it was a fun group. And so we were at the very first meeting when Gary and I were talking about this. I was joking. I said, we got to have how do we know each other on a movie set or somewhere? And I said, well, if I hear somebody say something that I would think they have our core values, if somebody said, I believe in God, or gee, I love my country, chances are they're one of us. so I said, how are we going to know one another? Will we have a secret handshake? Or like the honeymooners, like we have the Royal Raccoons, and we're joking about that. Yeah. How we know? I said, my first manager in show business was gay, and he told me that when he came to Hollywood in the 50s, if gay guys were trying to find out who was gay in Hollywood, they would mention a name. They'd say, I talked to Dan the other day. Say, oh, is he a friend of Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz? And if they said, no, he's not, well, that would mean he wasn't gay. If he said, oh, yeah, he is a friend of Dorothy, that was their secret code of and then Alcoholics Anonymous, if you're in AA, they don't say, are you an alcoholic? They say, are you a friend of Bill? Like if you say something like, no, I don't drink, they'll say, oh, are you a friend of Bill? That's their code. Are you on the program?
Mm-hmm.
I said, we got to be a friend of somebody. I said, how about Abraham Lincoln? He came from Illinois. And I said to Gary, I said, maybe we could say, if we hear somebody on the set say something like that match our core values, would say, are you a friend of Abe? And that way, the liberals in show business would think we're talking about an agent from William Morris.
Exactly.
and so we became friends of Abe, and it's well known, and it was well over 2,000. And Gary since moved his operation to Nashville, the Gary Sinise Foundation. I'm an ambassador. We build smart homes for the men and women, first responders, people who lose their arms or legs in combat and are on the job. And we built like almost 100 smart homes already. We raised money for it. So
we've had
operation to Nashville.
Yeah, we had Sinise on our show last year when he performed last summer. He and the Lieutenant Dan Band out here in suburban Chicago to raise money for his foundation. He does, and everybody associated with him does great work to support veterans. Before we let you go, I have to end with you telling a Sinatra story. I would be remiss if I didn't. And of the many stories I've watched from your performances that you've told, I always come back to the last time that you saw Frank Sinatra with friends at his home. Can you tell that story?
Yeah, sure. I've got 100 stories. I do a one-man show, as you know, called The Man Who Made Sinatra Laugh. It's a 90-minute show of stand-up comedy and storytelling that pictures come on the screen authenticating the stories that I'm telling. I've done it about 10 times in Chicago already, but anyhow, the story you're talking about, the last time I saw Frank, his 82nd birthday, it wasn't the last time I saw him. I saw him after he died 5 months later.
Mm.
And I went to his house, and we were having dinner, and a lot of his celebrity friends were there. And we didn't know Frank was quite with us at that time. He was off to the side having a bite to eat, and we were waiting for the cake to come out. And they started small talk. Somebody said, gee, where's the best place do you think to live? And Gregory Peck and his wife Veronique said, well, we have a villa in France, and we like it there a lot. Robert Wagner and Jill St. John said, we have a place in Aspen, and we like it there a lot. And over in the corner with his head down, we didn't think he was even paying attention. Frank said, the best place to live is where your friends are. And the whole room got quiet. And why I always say that was the last lesson Frank Sinatra taught me. He was a man, arguably the greatest career show business has ever known. I mean, not only was he a brilliant singer, the greatest pop singer of all time on the Billboard charts for like 45 years in a row or something, but he was a great actor. He won the Academy Award. He was Emmys, Grammys, amassed a fortune. He was sitting at 82 years old after accomplishing all that, in the end, he said that it's not about all that. It's about relationships. You know, the best place to live is where your friends are, you know.
That was the interview that I did with Tom Dreesen back in November of last year. I posted it on X, too, if you want to share it. You know, could have talked to him for hours, obviously. Happy to have the time that I did have with him. And I got, you know, some texts coming in, too. George Bliss, who's a longtime radio guy, recounting, you know, hanging out with Tom Dreesen at Miller's Pub. I mean, there's so many stories like this. He also made mention, this is great. This is like, you know, what's like a bucket list thing? If you could be in any sort of venue with one or two people, what would that be? Like what your dream thing? Like, you know, fly fishing with Bobby Knight and Ted Williams, who used to fly fish together, like one of those. How about this from George Bliss? His some of his best buddies playing golf with Smokey Robinson and Clint Eastwood. I think I would enjoy being the fourth. Tom Dreesen, Clint Eastwood, Smokey Robinson, and me. Yeah, let's tee it up. Maybe 36 today. So great. So, you know, again, as we've been talking about a bit this week, flying off of the celebrations that started this weekend of America at 250, we're reflecting upon Americans who lived rich, fascinating, positive lives, who contributed so much to America's success. And, of course, Tom Dreesen is included in that pantheon. And it's also a reminder, though, too, I just wanted to add this, because regular guy from Harvey goes on to have this life that Tom Dreesen lived. Reflecting upon people who've done some of the same things as Tom Dreesen in terms of living successful lives, maybe not in the entertainment industry, so not having the same public profile. But if you have somebody that you want to profile, we've started telling some stories yesterday. We've got some submissions, and we'll continue taking them. Just email me directly, dan@danproft.com, dan@danproft.com, if there's someone you should know as we think about America 250 and all the Americans who've contributed to this country's great success. We will continue to tell stories as long as we can. Coming up at 7:07, we return to the matter of the Iranian settlement. It is now 7 o'clock on AM 560 WIND.
They are either jealous, stupid, or bad people. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. That's what President Trump posted on Truth Social about those he calls fools who think he hasn't been tough enough on Iran. The morning after he signed the deal with Iran at the end of the G7 summit in France to end the conflict.
We're never going to let them have a nuclear weapon.
Now, Iran's president also signed the agreement that will open the Strait of Hormuz to oil and other shipping, which President Trump says will avoid an economic catastrophe. The deal also gives Iran sanctions relief, sets up a reconstruction fund, and would unfreeze some of their assets, which is getting criticized by some Republicans and Democrats in Congress. But the president insists
it's not our money, it's their money, and we froze it. At a certain point in time, I guess we're going to have to give it back.
Fox's Trey Yingst reports from Tel Aviv.
As for the missile program of Iran, President Trump said from France yesterday that the Iranians will have some missiles because neighboring countries have missiles. There was a lot of reaction across the region to those comments, but this is not a final deal with the Iranian regime. This is an extension of the ceasefire between the United States and Iran. He said if they don't adhere to the terms of this deal and don't ultimately give up their nuclear program, that he would resume the bombing campaign against the Islamic Republic.
War Secretary Pete Hegseth is at a NATO meeting in Brussels, calling on allies to take more responsibility for their own security in Europe.
Capable of deterring right here on the continent and taking the lead for the conventional defense.
Hegseth also announced a 6-month review of American forces stationed in Europe. One of the men charged in the plot the FBI thwarted to stage a White House attack, Daniel Eskridge, due in court today in Missouri.
Prosecutors say the 5 men arrested planned to deploy drones armed with explosives in and around the UFC Freedom 250 event last Sunday in order to force an evacuation, and then planned to deploy snipers to fire upon high-value targets within the fleeing crowd.
That's Fox's Chanley Painter. America's listening to Fox News.
In Chicago this morning, cloudy skies. There is a chance of a shower, 64 degrees right now. In your QC Kinetics newsroom, overnight, tornadoes caused injuries and damage across central and southern Illinois. The city of Charleston declared a local state of emergency. Tornadoes also struck the town of Effingham and destroyed parts of the town of Teutopolis. The full extent of the damage is unclear. A plan to hold parents accountable for the actions of their kids when it comes to teen rioting and takeovers fails to gain any traction in the Chicago City Council. Alderman Ray Lopez tried and failed to resurrect his parent accountability ordinance. Lopez's proposal failed in committee, and he tried to use council rules to bring it back to life.
Parents up. We need to give them the tools to be better parents in order to break this cycle, because even though the mayor keeps saying more money is needed for programs, the best program to keep youth in line is a parent that's paying attention.
Also at City Council, Chicago taxpayers now may need to shell out more than $400 million to pay for upgrades at the site of the new Chicago Fire Stadium, a subsidy approved, favored by Mayor Brandon Johnson. The City of Chicago is also buying a Greyhound bus station on the near west side. City Council voting yesterday to approve more than $19 million in funds to purchase that facility. The bus station's future has been up in the air since early 2024. Cubs won the rubber match of their set against the Rockies 8-6, while the White Sox lost to the Yankees 10-5. The news, a service of the AM 560 store, T-shirts, hoodies, and more from your favorite AM 560 brands, Proft University, Sean Thompson Show. Go to 560theanswer.com/store. A check of the roads coming your way in 2 minutes on AM 560.
Your home is a valuable asset, and you want to take care of your home. From roofs, siding, windows and doors to furnaces, flooring, landscaping, and much more. Listen to your go-to for all things home. It's Home Answers Radio with your host, Roger Piper. Get answers from industry experts so you can make informed decisions about home improvement. Listen every Saturday at noon for Home Answers right here on AM 560 The Answer. Sponsored in part by Access Home and Vehicle Mobility Solutions and by Steiner Homes. WIND, Chicago. The Danielle Gill Podcast, now available on the Salem Podcast Network.
Throughout Trump's first administration, the Democrats cried endlessly about foreign collusion and the usurpation of democracy through government abuse and corruption. All the while, they were doing just that. They were colluding with foreign governments to usurp democracy through government abuse, corruption, all of the things.
Subscribe for free today to the Danielle Gill Podcast on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, or at SalemPodcastNetwork.com.
Have you ever wondered, with all the different religions and interpretations of the Bible, how you can be sure that you're on the right path in your spiritual journey? The powerful new book, You and God by Peter Philippi, helps you answer this question and discover how to establish a truly personal relationship with God through biblical understanding and faith. Get your copy of You and God by Peter Philippi today by visiting pbmusa.org. That's pbmusa.org.
Our founders believed that freedom wasn't just a word, it was a way of life. The freedom to move forward, the freedom to pursue what matters most, the freedom to live fully. But pain has a way of taking those freedoms away. That's why Relief Factor exists and why I endorse it. I've seen how many in this audience have regained their freedom and they're back to living life on their own terms. Relief Factor, it's 100% drug-free. It's a research-based supplement designed to help support a healthy inflammatory response, addressing pain at its source, not just covering it up. Over 1 million Americans have found relief and reclaimed parts of their life they thought were behind them. So this year, as we celebrate 250 years of freedom, ask yourself a simple question. Are you living with the freedom you deserve? Relief Factor. They give you the opportunity to live pain-free and to get back to the life you love. To commemorate our country's birth, they are offering a special patriotic price, just $17.76. So you can celebrate your freedom from pain. Your $17.76 3-week quick start is ready for you right now. ReliefFactor.com, 800-4-RELIEF. 800, the number 4-RELIEF.
Are you turning 65 and thinking about Medicare? Or are you over 65 and haven't enrolled yet because you still have coverage at work? Either way, Medicare done correctly will be the best health insurance you will ever have. Imagine having an annual deductible of only $283. There are only two good things about aging, wisdom and Medicare. But to navigate the Medicare maze properly, you need a mentor. Best part? My guidance costs you nothing. Call me. I can help.
If you're tired of calling a bureaucrat at an 800 number to help you navigate Medicare, then you need a local expert on your side, your own health insurance mentor. C. Stephen Tucker from healthinsurancementors.com is someone I know and trust. He's a 30-year licensed broker who's been educating our listeners for more than a decade. Steve, how can our listeners get in touch with you?
Thanks, Dan. They can visit healthinsurancementors.com or call me directly at 630-674-1551. That's 630-674-1551.
7:07, Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. Elmhurst commuters, watch out, Butterfield and York reported an accident. Lamont, semi in the ditch. State Street, just north of 127. Stop and go traffic, roadwork delays, Route 53 northbound. You begin to hit the brakes right at the Eisenhower Expressway. Tri-State stop and go northbound from Ridgeland all the way up to Harlem Avenue, and the Stevenson slowing up Harlem to Kedzie. Traffic, a service of the daily podcast of Chicago's Morning Answer in the Sean Thompson Show. Subscribe free at 560theanswer.com/podcast. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but first, a check of your morning forecast in the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center.
Today will bring a mix of clouds and sun along with breezy conditions and warmer temperatures. There is a chance of a shower in the area with a high of 76 degrees. Tonight will be mainly clear with a low of 58. Tomorrow is expected to be mostly sunny and comfortable with a high of 77. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
This hourly segment is sponsored by Protecting Your Assets with Steve Shyman. Listen Saturday mornings at 8. Learn more at willsave.com.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. President Trump yesterday at the G7 upon discussing and taking questions on the memorandum of understanding with the Iranians that he signed in Versailles. This is how he responded to critics of his that were otherwise supportive initially of his decision to strike the mullahs in Tehran, but not necessarily supportive of certainly having some grave concerns about the component parts of this MOU.
If I went out and continued to bomb them for another 4, just bomb the hell out of them, I'd get bad press on that. No, there's nothing I can do. But what this does is it allows the ships to go. If we keep bombing, those ships won't be going. And you're talking about $500, $600, $700 million a day. It's a lot of money. A lot of money. That's why the world is okay. It's liquid. It's fine. Also, we run out of reserves in about 4 weeks. You know, there are reserves all over the world, and we would really run out. And there'll be a time when you wouldn't be able to get it. And you want to see bedlam? So for all those so-called geniuses that want to show me how smart they are, ask them why didn't they blow up General Soleimani? Ask that of the general and a couple of other people that I like very much, but boy, are they wrong.
Well, some of the same people that were supportive of the decision to strike Iran, Operation Midnight Hammer last year, Operation Epic Fury this year, and Economic Fury, were also supportive of you taking out Soleimani. So I'm a little unclear what your point is, Mr. President. Number one. Number two, the world's oil reserves were down to 4 weeks before there was bedlam. It's interesting. I thought you had nothing but time on your hands. We can wait them out. I'm in no hurry. Patience is not at a premium. There were some discussions by oil executives that if we got into July and August, we were going to start having a problem with global oil supply, but those predictions were not embraced by the administration. And also, there's some reporting that suggests there were sort of below the fold oil shipments that were being green lighted out of Iran, in part through the Qataris, to maintain the global oil supply and frankly, provide an influx of resources, modest, but resources nonetheless, to the Iranians. You know, there's a lot going on that was not widely publicized, including what was reported in the last couple of weeks leading up to this, which is sort of a very clandestine, until it was reported in the Wall Street Journal, Operation Project Freedom, the escorting of boats along the carriers along the coast to get 30, 40, 50 ships out a week that were transporting oil and petroleum products. So anyway, I don't know. It's just that there's some mixed messaging there. And as to the strait and it being open and trying to avoid this bedlam that was in the offing, again, according to the MOU, the Islamic Republic of Iran will make arrangements using its best efforts for the safe passage of commercial vessels with no charge for 60 days only. And so what does that mean after 60 days? The Iranians get together with Oman and impose some sort of different regime. I know they're saying no tolling. That's a violation of international law. That will not be tolerated. Well, so then what's the only 60 days, best efforts, and then what is the plan with Oman and Iran 2 months out?
But they don't guarantee no tolls
by the way,
or fees after 60 days.
This is Brian Kilmeade, Fox News, with Rich Goldberg from the Foundation of Defense Democracies tackling this issue.
But they don't guarantee no tolls or fees after 60 days. Evidently, they are going to set up a coalition with Oman and charge fees. But President Trump would never sign off on that.
I mean, here's the deal. This is my metaphor that I think you should use. What President Trump has done to the Iranians through Epic Fury economically is like open the ephemeral artery on their leg, right? They're bleeding out. If this is a Band-Aid over a mortal wound, and we get full relief from the Strait of Hormuz and all the gains that we have with Epic Fury, this is a huge win. If we're actually putting a tourniquet on the leg and bringing Iran to the hospital, maybe a little bit of a different story.
Right.
Well, those are some big ifs. Which one is it? Eugene Konorovich joins us. He's a professor at George Mason University Scalia Law School. He's also a senior fellow at the Heritage Foundation. Professor Konorovich, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hi, thank you. Thanks for having me.
So what is your net position on the broad strokes of this MOU?
Well, it's very disturbing, and there's a lot of parts of it that are pretty horrible. The major mitigating factor is that it's a 60-day agreement, and nothing final is resolved, but it basically strengthens Iran. There's no other way to put it. And combined with comments President Trump has been making, suggesting that he thinks the leadership of Iran are reasonable people, rational people. And today, the leader of Iran was talking about avenging the deaths of the Iranian leaders killed by America. It seems like a massive reversal of the U.S. position and snatching defeat out of the jaws of victory. President Trump is rightly proud of the military campaign he conducted against Iran, and he keeps talking about how its military was smashed, its navy was sunk. But if you give them $300 billion to rebuild their military, as this agreement does, they're going to have a better navy. They're going to have a better. Army. And just the fundamental question is this: has the leadership of Iran had a fundamental change of heart? Have they become different people? Do they no longer believe that Muslims should rule over infidels? Well, today they said actually that that's exactly what they believe. Do they no longer believe that they must export their Shia jihad throughout the Middle East and beyond? They just said today that as soon as they get money, the first thing they're going to do is give it to Hezbollah, the Iranian proxy army that dominates Lebanon, including the large Christian minority in Lebanon. They're the same people. There seem to be some people in the White House who think that everyone wants the same thing. Everyone just wants to make money. And I think they misunderstand the Iranians. They want to make money also, but they want to make money so they can export their violent jihad and dominate the Middle East. So it's a very disturbing deal. The good news is it's not too late to back out, as Vice President Vance said. There's a lot of outs for the U.S. Hopefully they will be taken Otherwise, this is going to basically mark the end of American primacy in the world and will eventually bring the exact consequences that President Trump fears, namely high oil. Because if you show Iran that, they can control the Straits of Hormuz and that is going to be accepted by America, you have essentially said that Iran is going to set the price of oil around the world. Maybe now they can have it lower. Maybe later they'll have it higher. We're going to wind up paying.
Well, I want to get to the oil piece, but something else I want you to respond to. Trump suggesting, look, this is a memorandum of understanding, as you say, it's 60-day horizon, basically, to see specific performance from the Iranians. But if they misbehave, President Trump said,
if they don't behave, we'll go right back to dropping bombs right smack in the middle of their head, okay? Because they've misbehaved for 47 years. All right?
Okay, they misbehaved for 47 years, and he's willing to go back and do the things that he doesn't want to do. He'd rather have an agreement to coexist peacefully. But, he said that a lot over the last couple of months, too, and it was really only near the end last week where there was a response to the Iranians downing an Apache helicopter. So I just wonder, my supposition from this administration, from the president and from the vice president, is that it would require Iran to brazenly violate this agreement in the short term such that it cannot be ignored. Otherwise, violations that can be ignored will be.
Yeah, and first of all, they're not really required to do much at all during the 60 days. They will, presumably reopen the Straits of Hormuz, but even that they only have to do during the last 30 days, so that doesn't get you too much. The Iranians have a massive advantage over America. Two massive advantages. Three. They have no domestic opposition, having murdered them all. They have a dogmatic theology, which they believe in, and they don't have elections, so they don't have to worry. They can take the long term. President Trump is worried, has to worry about the elections, and Iran doesn't. Right? They canceled the opposition in the most brutal way possible, but at the same time, the worst thing that could come out of this is a fundamental lesson that going forward in the 21st century, medium-sized, second-rate theological dictatorships have it over the world's greatest democracies and greatest industrial powers simply because they're less free and crazier.
Professor Eugene Konorovich, professor at George Mason University Scalia Law School, also senior fellow at the Heritage Foundation. Professor Konorovich, thank you as always. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Take care. And he joined us on the alphawealthgroup.com answer line.
There's only one radio show in Chicago talking about today's biggest stories and telling you what they really mean. That show is this one, Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
Chicago businesses. Your phone, internet, and IT should work well 24/7. But when it doesn't, who are you calling? At Overseas Help Desk? If you want clear, reliable local experts, consider Access One. Access One has been powering Chicago businesses with secure, reliable IT solutions for over 30 years from our headquarters right here in the West Loop. Whether it's VoIP phones, dedicated internet, managed cybersecurity, cloud backups, or 24/7 support, Access One has you covered. Access One is Chicago-owned, Chicago-run, and serving thousands of companies from Naperville to the North Shore and everywhere in between. We're rated top 5% in customer satisfaction, a Better Business Bureau A+ rated business, and trusted by law firms, clinics, tech startups to manufacturers. Let's talk about making your IT work well. Call 800-654-1555 or visit AccessOneInc.com. That's AccessOneInc.com. Tech made personal, locally.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank, a bank where relationships still matter. Signature Bank knows your name and your story. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
I'm Scott Bartmus, co-founder of ESCO, a security and fire alarm services business and a customer of Signature Bank. We work hard to give our customers peace of mind, so it's nice to know that while we have our customers' backs, partners like Signature Bank have ours. When COVID hit, there was a lot of uncertainty for many businesses, particularly surrounding the PPP loan program, with parameters and deadlines changing constantly. The executives from Signature Bank worked weekends alongside their staff, filling out and submitting applications to ensure they took care of us. That type of dedication is hard to find, but we found it with Signature Bank.
Signature Bank helps local businesses succeed. Want to learn how Signature Bank can help turn your business vision into reality? Call Signature Bank at 773-467-5600 or visit signaturebank.bank. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Town Hall News, where conservative voices cut through the noise from breaking headlines to fearless opinion. We report what matters without apology. Written by people who actually believe what you believe. Town Hall tells the stories the corporate press buries, from President Trump to Capitol Hill, from pivotal elections to your everyday lives. Join the movement at townhall.com. Real stories, real reporters, real conservative media.
The following contains a celebrity impersonation.
Mr. President, we're seeing reporting that air conditioning systems are failing as temperatures rise. What is your response?
I said, don't wait. People wait until the last second, then suddenly it's hot and nothing works. I understand this stuff probably better than anybody.
Mr. President, why hasn't the White House issued any guidance?
I gave perfect guidance. Call Air Right Heating and Cooling. That's the guidance. If people followed it, we wouldn't even be talking about this.
Sir, but homeowners have so many HVAC options.
They're not like Air Right. You got some bad installers out there, some real bad hombres. I wouldn't let them near the White House. It would be a complete disaster.
Mr. President, there are reports of significant rebates on new systems. Can you confirm?
I've heard about them. A lot of people talking about them. If you miss out, you'd have to be really not so smart. Tremendous savings, let me tell you.
Visit Air Right Heating and Cooling at AIR-RITE.com. Air Right. Doing it right since 1959.
Your kitchen's outdated. Your bathroom feels cramped. Every day you wait, prices go up. And you keep living in a space that doesn't work. At Forever Remodeling, one team handles everything. Design, planning, and installation, start to finish. We show you your new space in 3D before we ever break ground. No surprises. With flexible financing options, the home you want is closer than you think. Visit foreverremodeling.com. That's the number 4, everremodeling.com to schedule your personalized in-home design consultation.
AM 560, The Answer.
Thanks to everybody who texted in about the technical difficulties. We had a network problem during the Eugene Konorovich interview. Hopefully fixed now. If you didn't catch it all, it's worth catching. So catch that on the backside on the podcast, which we'll post after the show. The full interview with Eugene Konorovich. Coming up at 7:37. I know a couple of folks who will not be at the Obama Land grand opening today. One is probably the group of minority business enterprise contractors who haven't been paid for the work they've performed. They probably won't be there to celebrate. And the other is Richard Epstein, Professor Richard Epstein from University of Chicago, who's been suing to stop Obama Land from ever getting off the ground for the better part of the last 6 or 7 years. We'll talk to Professor Epstein about it. 7:37. Now we check the headlines with Mike Scott.
7:32. Mostly cloudy with breaks of sunshine, 64 degrees. Tornadoes caused injuries here in the Midwest. Several tornadoes reported touching down across the state of Illinois, including one that caused several injuries near the city of Charleston. Tornadoes also struck the city of Effingham and destroyed parts of the town of Teutopolis. A memorandum of understanding between the U.S. and Iran has been signed by President Trump. He confirmed the signing to reporters after dinner at the Palace in Versailles, France, with French President Macron wrapping up the G7 summit. Knicks fans are flocking to Lower Manhattan right now for a ticker tape parade honoring the NBA champs. The Knicks will travel up the Canyon of Heroes. The Knicks won their first NBA championship since 1973, but, oh, by the way, they held no celebration in 1973. The mayor, John Lindsay, had banned ticker tape parades. Plan to hold parents accountable for the actions of their kids when it comes to teen takeovers fails to gain traction in Chicago's city council. Chicago taxpayers may need to shell out more than $400 million to pay for upgrades at the site of the new Chicago Fire Stadium, favored by Mayor Brandon Johnson.
To develop a whole community in which we're going to create jobs and housing and be able to generate revenue to make more investments into people. Why am I investing? To invest more into people? I mean, that's the hallmark of my administration.
Police say no signs of foul play in the deaths of 3 family members in Buffalo Grove. The Cook County Medical Examiner's Office identified the victims as 88-year-old Helen Cavins, 81-year-old Harold Cavins, and 16-year-old Mark Cavins. The 2 older family members were under hospice care. Chicago sports. Cubs beat the Rockies 8-6, while the White Sox lost to the Yankees in the Bronx 10-5. The news, a service of the AM 560 store. T-shirts, hoodies, and more from your favorite AM 560 brands, including Proft University and The Sean Thompson Show at 560theanswer.com/store. A check of the roads in 2 minutes on AM 560.
Your home is a valuable asset, and you want to take care of your home. From roofs, siding, windows and doors to furnaces, flooring, landscaping, and much more. Listen to your go-to for all things home. It's Home Answers Radio with your host, Roger Piper. Get answers from industry experts so you can make informed decisions about home improvement. Listen every Saturday at noon for Home Answers right here on AM 560 The Answer. Sponsored in part by Level 10 Coatings and by American Beam and Steel.
Chicago businesses. Your phone, internet, and IT should work well 24/7. But when it doesn't, who are you calling? At Overseas Help Desk? If you want clear, reliable local experts, consider Access One. Access One has been powering Chicago businesses with secure, reliable IT solutions for over 30 years. From our headquarters right here in the West Loop. Whether it's VoIP phones, dedicated internet, managed cybersecurity, cloud backups, or 24/7 support, Access One has you covered. Access One is Chicago-owned, Chicago-run, and serving thousands of companies from Naperville to the North Shore and everywhere in between. We're rated top 5% in customer satisfaction, a Better Business Bureau A+ rated business, and trusted by law firms, clinics, tech startups to manufacturers. Let's talk about making your IT work well. Call 800-654-1555 or visit AccessOneInc.com. That's AccessOneInc.com. Tech made personal, locally.
Meet Keith. He runs a 30-acre ranch. 8 years ago, his knees started giving out.
Climbing a ladder was almost impossible. If I could get down, I have to have something next to me to get up.
Keith's wife had a knee replacement. The recovery was hard and the results, not great. Keith wanted another way.
I won't go under the knife because I believe the body can do whatever it needs to do to heal itself.
Surgery wasn't the answer. QC Kinetics was. They're regenerative treatments. No surgery, no long recovery.
After the first one, the inflammation dropped 90%. Today, my knees are just amazing. I could not do what I've done if I had not gotten treatments through QC Kinetics. I just pray that my physical model continues to go and help other people.
Maybe that's you. Tired of dealing with the joint pain? Call QC Kinetics for your free consultation today.
Call QC Kinetics, 312-827-6261. That's 312-827-6261. 312-827-6261.
Do you owe $10,000 or more to the IRS like Mark?
I've been doing home remodeling for 30 plus years, but the economy crashed. I wound up losing my home, losing my job, and on top of that, owing the IRS a ton of money. I owed the IRS $114,000. It really, truly was the worst part of my life.
Then Mark found tax relief advocates.
On news radio, I heard about TRA, and I thought, what's the worst that could happen? So I picked up the phone and I called them. When it was all said and done, TRA settled my $114,000 debt for $100, and I'm telling you, I was ecstatic, could not believe it. Would recommend TRA to anyone.
If you owe 10 or even hundreds of thousands of dollars to the IRS, don't lose hope. Do what Mark did and call TRA for a consultation.
But TRA did, they gave me a second chance, and I'm forever grateful.
Visit TRA.com or call 800-575-8924. 800-575-8924. That's 800-575-8924.
Giving your liver a spring cleaning is easy with Active Liver from New Nordic. Search for Active Liver by New Nordic on Amazon, CVS, Wegmans, or GNC.
9 Hochberg traffic center time. Good news in Batavia. Kirk Road northbound between Wilson and Hubbard reopened after an earlier bad accident. Roadwork delays on Route 53 northbound. Tap of the brakes at the Ike all the way up to Kirchhoff. Jane Addams slows up eastbound Meacham all the way to Route 53, and you've got solid traffic on northbound Lakeshore Drive at Bryn Mawr. Traffic, a service of Mattress Firm. Trouble sleeping lately? Upgrade to the great sleep you deserve at Mattress Firm's July 4th sale. Choose from a curated selection of top brands and let their sleep experts help you narrow it down. They make sleep easy. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. But now a check of your forecast. In the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center, we see clouds and sun for the morning, maybe a shower, breezy by the afternoon, with a high near 74.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
This hour is brought to you by Retirement Decoded with Scott Tucker and Amy Jacobson. Heard Sunday mornings from 7 to 9 a.m. Learn more at retirementdecoded.com.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. A star-studded affair, the Obamaland grand opening today. Performers including Chicagoans, Jennifer Hudson, Common, Eddie Vedder, of course, Cubs fan, Eddie Vedder, typical. Bono and The Edge, Springsteen, Mark Anthony, Christina Aguilera. Wow. Great. It's very illustrative of the Obama years and Chicago in general. Such a parochial town. Let's focus on the celebrities and not on the contractors getting screwed by Team Obama. You know, the workaday guys that this political power structure in Illinois has always represented. Trying to uplift people, an opportunity. City of big shoulders. Why don't you ask Mike Owen about that? Mike Owen is the owner of Adamson Plumbing. He is nearly $4 million in the red after years of work on Obamaland. This is a hole that no subcontractor small business can survive, he said. Of course, the project that was projected to cost $300 million or so ended up being more like $830 million. Maybe even more than that. Those are the Obamaland numbers. I suspect they're underreporting the overage. These subcontractors, we talked about this later in the week, all these subcontractors that are unpaid. And Fox News also reporting that the endowment that was promoted as a $470 million financial safeguard has about $1 million in it instead. Going back to, so the prospect do we have, is there taxpayer exposure? We're going to talk to Professor Richard Epstein about that momentarily. Going back to Mike Owen, Adamson Plumbing, the project stretched on for years longer than anticipated, yes. Way over time and over budget. Also something illustrative of the Obama years, including his time in the General Assembly here. Forcing his company to absorb millions of dollars in labor and overhead costs as work demands changed and expanded. He should have probably pulled up and pulled out before it got to the point that it did, that much in arrears. He said the losses have drained the company's reserves, created uncertainty for employees, and could ultimately force layoffs. And a lot of minority contractors, too. Advocates for black subcontractor firms say those companies have been muzzled by non-disclosure agreement and a reluctance to speak publicly because of the prestige surrounding the project in Obama's adopted hometown. Sure, you wouldn't want to dampen the celebratory atmosphere when Eddie Vedder takes the stage. And such a deal, don't forget, this all was started when Tiny Dancer, that's Rahm Emanuel, signed on to a deal with the Obamaland people, starting with Barack and Michelle, to give away the public lands in Jackson Park for $10. Classic Chicago. For more on all this, Professor Richard Epstein, James Parker Hall, Distinguished Service Professor Emeritus of Law and Senior Lecturer at the University of Chicago, joins us. Professor Epstein, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
Well, on this happy occasion, I'm very glad to be here.
Did you get an invite to the grand celebration today?
If you have to ask the question, you know the answer.
Yes.
Of course not. I'm as welcome as worm repellent at that operation since I was in charge of the lawsuit that ended in total defeat to the Obama Foundation. And, it's bittersweet at this particular point in time. So somebody kept saying to me, look at these financial numbers, Professor Epstein. Why didn't you point this out earlier on, right? Well, that's a very fair question to ask, and we did point them out in multiple briefs and in multiple articles. What we said is the Obama Foundation has a relatively small endowment that cannot handle the things as it's gone. Recently, they issued a statement in which they said, well, we passed muster in 2021 because we proved that we had received $485 million, and the project at that time only cost $482 million. So therefore, we were able to cover our costs. And so you start looking at this statement and you realize that it's just crazy. So the first thing you know is they didn't give you audited accounts. And so how do we know the numbers are reliable?
Well, you just trust them.
I trust nobody. Trust but verify. It's the fact. But you can't get it. It's less than a 1% margin. And so one of the things we wanted to find out is how did they value the pledges? You can't do it at face value because there's always a fallout rate. And if that fallout rate is even more than minuscule, they're below the numbers. And then, of course, how does one believe their cost figures on this structure? Within 2 months, by the time they got to June, people were talking about $200 million more. And then $750 million, $850 million. Nobody has a record of any financial situations from the Obama Foundation or from that subsidiary corporation, which later than 2021. And when the Obama Foundation gives out its numbers, they give out 2021 numbers. They were supposed to do another audit before they closed the deal, because the basic structure of this deal was we're going to give you the land for a very attractive price. And you said, well, they got it for $10. No, what happens is the city also covers the legal fees.
Yeah, sure.
By God, it runs interference and so forth. So, and it does a lot of work on the roads from its own stuff, getting federal monies for all of this stuff. So by the time you're done, you have no idea what the size of the subsidy is. And when we wrote our unsuccessful brief to the Supreme Court, Michael Ratliff and I said, Mr. Obama, when he ran for president, said he was going to be the most transparent president that ever lived. And now he runs a foundation and nobody even knows what's in the building until they open it up because everything was kept secret and dark. So what happens is we go to court and we present all this evidence. And what we do is we're met by a series of procedural defenses. And it's important for laymen to know that just because you're right on the merits is about 5% of getting you there. And so I joked about the Obama federal project when I was talking about it to the press, and I said things like as follows. If you're 100% right and you're suing the government or somebody who's connected to the government, you're lucky if you have a 50% chance of winning. And that was surely wrong. The chances of winning were even less. So what happened is Judge Blakey, who was an Obama appointee, he looks at this particular case and he decides there's no real public trust doctrine here because the only thing the doctrine requires is the legislature to affirm the project, which in multiple times they did. The entire history of the doctrine is exactly the opposite way. The public trust doctrine is meant as a limitation on the legislature and the executive to make sure that they don't give public property to private parties for nothing. And so I developed back in the 1980s a little maxim which says under the public trust doctrine, it's the inverse of the takings clause. It says, nor shall public property be given to private parties without just compensation coming to the state. And that's absolutely standard law for private trust. And all the research shows that at the time of the founding, public trust and private trust were run by the same document. So he knocks us out on that. And then what happens is we go up on appeal to Amy Barrett on some of this stuff, and she says, you actually pleaded a nuisance case, and you're wrong, so I'm giving you a judgment on the merits against you. Well, we never pleaded a nuisance case because we knew that it would be absolutely absurd to try to do it. So we managed to lose a case which we did not bring because it blocked.
We've talked about this, over the years. I mean, the bottom line is you had, and this includes Amy Coney Barrett as far as I'm concerned, you had politicians in robes that were not going to be on the hook to stop this project or to queer this deal. And that's the bottom line. So they found a way, even though to your point about being right on the merits, and they found a way, bootstrapping, novel interpretations of what you weren't or were not doing, were or were not arguing. They found a way to give this thing the green light because they were always going to do it because that's how the courts work in these parts.
Well, I mean, and so we then get in front of Diane Wood, and it's the same problem. There was a case called Malik, which said very clearly, in Illinois law, a public trust doctrine allows any citizen to block a project which is outside the purview of the project. And that's absolutely standard law in dealing with charitable trust and corporate and local governments and the like. And she just read it as a third-party beneficiary case, which it wasn't. A third-party beneficiary is somebody to a contract. He's not a party to it, but he's supposed to get a benefit from it. And every single case you see of that is they protect the payments when they're made, but they always allow the original parties to reverse the agreement. We would never bring a case like that. So again, we lost to a theory which we did not plead. So by the time you get to the Supreme Court, you've lost every procedural stuff. Not a single substantive doctrine has been discovered. But we, of course, had the record. And if you look at it, the Obama Foundation, in its most recent, very cryptic situation, said, we had to establish a trust, an endowment. Well, an endowment means you have to put money in. That's the definition. But their definition of an endowment is you have to promise to put money in. So the last time they wrote anything about this in 2021, they said, we're going to raise $300 million a year for this thing for the next 5 years, and we'll be in plenty of time. Well, they not raised a single dime for this. They did get 2 large grants, but they were devoted to other kinds of purposes for $100 million.
Valerie Jarrett's salary. Let me ask you like 2 questions, just that just perspective on this. What do you suggest is going to happen to these contractors that are owed millions of dollars if there are not millions of dollars in the coffers of the Obama Foundation to pay them out?
Look, what they need to get is a public interest lawyer, someone who's very aggressive, who will, in fact, bring a suit against all these various parties, not just their shell entities, but Turner Construction, which is the danger contractor, and, of course, the Obama Foundation personally. One of the problems that they face, and they know they face, is normally if you don't get paid by a contract,
you can lien it.
You can lien it, but you can't lien public property in the same way. So it's just a terrible mess, and they have to get personal guarantees. What they need to do is they cannot go through this case now with their normal, very competent construction lawyers. This is a whole new dimension which requires you get somebody who actually knows this stuff about public law really well. The other thing that must be done is some public party has to investigate this case, and they won't do it because what happens is these guys sign non-disclosure agreements, and they've already breached them by saying they signed a non-disclosure agreement, maybe, and they have to worry about their own reverse liability, which is not a trivial kind of question. So they have to get somebody who has got public authorities who's going to open up the books. And I don't know what the total amount of the debt is. I'm just a lawyer. But, you stick with these things and all these guys, there's probably at least $100 to $200 million of unpaid things that they won't reverse. Everybody who do the project, from the outside said it was an incompetent job from day one because of the rapid change in all the personnel that were being done and all the novel rules they wanted to do on a construction site, by the way, which is one of the most difficult places to build. The two major difficulties are you're near water, and so you have to really reinforce the base, and there's still a major risk that some storm could really damage this. And the second thing is ingress and egress to that site is impossible because they have to get 4 streams, separate streams, into a place, which is a cul-de-sac, and then turn it around. I mean, they have to deal with security personnel because it's a presidential operation. They have to deal with employees. They have to deal with customers, and they have to deal with deliveries and supply. I mean, I don't even understand how they could work it, but I'm even more angry. A very great architect in Chicago named Graham Balcony actually designed an extremely attractive, prize-winning operation to build on private lands on the other side of Washington Park, a center whose beauty was 1,000 times greater than this. We gave it free of charge. Yeah, but I'm talking about this is a prize-winning project.
Yeah.
We sent this project over to the Obama Foundation, and they never bothered to respond as to what it was because their strategy was a vanity project, and they had to build this thing in Washington, in Jackson Park for that. And we said, here's a great site in Washington Park. It's got good road access. It's cheap. It doesn't have all these environmental, health, and water issues. They didn't look at it. Instead, what they did is they wrecked Lakeshore Drive in the transition to the Midwest. They put up this thing, which is, in my view, an Obama-esque. And I think the general architectural world thinks that this thing is sadly misplaced. And it's the level of arrogance is nobody can talk to them. So what's the remedy, right? Is that your next question?
No, my next question is the probability that the taxpayers will be on the hook at some point.
Well, I think the answer is until you know the thing, you can't be for sure. But the numbers that we put out suggest that they're well over $1 billion in the hole. Remember, what happened is they had this $482 million cost figure. By June of that same year, it was probably $200 million worse. By the time they closed, it's probably $700 million in cost. And then you get COVID and the inflation and everything else and the overruns and so forth. It's really high. We said that they had to do another pricing before closure, and that's what the agreement said. And they never did it. They just closed the agreement. You could read the public record. We wrote 2 letters to them. They wrote 2 replies to us in 2021, and they said we're perfectly within the limits of this agreement. They still do not acknowledge that an endowment requires you to have money on the barrelhead, not a promise to raise it at some future time.
Well,
this came up in the case, and Judge Hamilton, he said, "Well, isn't there a good faith exception?" I said, "No, Judge Hamilton, you don't know any contract law.
Good faith
There's no good faith exception when there's a strict condition precedent."
But he promised. But wait, they promised us. Come on, it's a promise. You know, they got that big Netflix contract. Yeah, they promised. Don't worry about it. He'll make good. I'll tell you, the one thing that's nice about this, though, is we find that Obama, if nothing else, is an equal opportunity deadbeat. And so he's treating everybody the same. And, you know, there's something to be said in that. Professor Richard Epstein, the James Parker Hall Distinguished Service Professor, Emeritus of Law and Senior Lecturer at the University of Chicago. Professor Epstein, thank you as always. Appreciate it.
And you enjoy the rest of the spectrum.
Thank you very much. And he joined us on the alphawealthgroup.com answer line.
This is the morning show more Chicago radio listeners are choosing. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Hey Chicagoland, Jeff from Jeff Buys Your House. The military taught me that every mission is different. You assess the situation, listen to your team, then execute a plan built around what's needed. Same with helping families sell their homes. Whether it's an inherited house, a parent needing senior living, or life's just taking you in a new direction, we don't show up with a one-size-fits-all answer. We start by listening. What's your timeline? What are you worried about? What would make this easier? Then we build a solution around your needs. No repairs or cleanout are necessary. You pick the timeline that works for you, keep your memories, and we handle everything else. Since 2007, our veteran-led team has earned hundreds of 5-star reviews by doing exactly that, listening first, and treating every family with respect. If you're ready for an no-obligation conversation, call us at 630-895-9530. That's 630-895-9530 or jeffbuysyourhouse.com. That's jeffbuysyourhouse.com.
The Matrix is Penny Mustard's most popular TV stand.
No way. It's a computer-generated simulation.
How do you know?
Look closely at the Matrix. See all the pixels?
Those aren't pixels.
That's wood grain.
The Matrix TV stand is handcrafted from solid wood.
Built to your specifications and TV size.
Yeah, right. That's what they want you to believe.
Come see the totally real and wildly popular Matrix TV stand, starting at $28.44 at Penny Mustard.
7 Chicagoland showrooms.
PennyMustard.com.
AM 560. The Answer.
Yeah, get yourself connected. That they should be playing that theme music at the big Obamaland grand opening today. Get yourself connected. Stereo MCs. Coming up at 8:08, A is for average, at least on the college campuses. We'll talk to Neetu Arnold from the Manhattan Institute. And at the bottom of the 8 o'clock hour, we'll return to our discussion of that MOU with Iran. It is now 8 o'clock on AM 560 WIND Chicago.
He's being criticized from the left and right. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. Wary of the U.S.-Iran deal President Trump signed digitally last night, Democratic Senate Leader Chuck Schumer posted on X, "We're worse off than before the war started." Republican Senator Ted Cruz says the president got very poor advice. History teaches that giving billions of dollars to theocratic lunatics who want to murder us is a bad idea. But the president insists.
We're not putting up money. Only if they're doing things right. If they're doing things right, if people want to invest, they can invest.
And on Truth Social, the president posted this morning, the fools he thinks that think he hasn't done enough and been tough enough on Iran are either jealous, stupid, or bad people. Before signing the agreement at the G7 summit in France, he says it achieves what he wanted.
Reopening the Strait of Hormuz and preventing Iran from ever obtaining a nuclear weapon.
But if they don't behave, the president says he'll bomb Iran again.
The final deal must be reached within 60 days with the possibility of an extension. This is related to Iran's nuclear program and the details that are yet to be discussed. The U.S. naval blockade of Iranian ports, and the Iranians will receive tiered sanctions relief.
Fox's Trey Yingst in Tel Aviv. War Secretary Pete Hegseth is at a NATO meeting in Brussels, telling our allies they weren't there for the U.S. when the war in Iran started.
But too many of our allies said no, or tried to drown us in arcane legal debates, or criticized us publicly for doing what they aren't prepared or able to do themselves. It was shameful.
He's at a meeting of NATO defense ministers in Belgium, telling them that over the next 6 months, the Pentagon will review U.S. military forces in Europe. Secretary Hegseth warning that if free-riding allies don't increase defense spending, the United States could withhold payments to NATO.
Fox's Jonathan Savage. Ukraine's gone on the counterattack again in Russia with a wave of drones into the capital, Moscow, hitting an oil refinery, disrupting flights at the city's airports. America's listening to Fox News.
Clouds and a break of sun or two, 64 degrees in the QC Kinetics newsroom. Tornadoes caused injuries in the Midwest overnight. Tornadoes reported across Iowa and into the state of Illinois, including one that caused major injuries in the city of Charleston. This firefighter was rushing to his station in Lincoln when the violent storms struck.
Responding to my first call, with the storm, and I felt my truck shake and a loud pop, and lightning struck my truck. It went completely dark. Indicator lights came on, and I just literally texted my chief and said, "Hey, I can't go anywhere."
Tornadoes also struck the city of Effingham and destroyed parts of the town of Teutopolis. A plan to hold parents accountable for the actions of kids when it comes to teen rioting and takeovers fails to gain traction in Chicago's city council. To crack down on teen takeovers, Alderman Ray Lopez tried and failed to resurrect his parent accountability ordinance.
We need to wake parents up. We need to give them the tools to be better parents in order to break this cycle, because even though the mayor keeps saying more money is needed for programs, the best program to keep youth in line is a parent that's paying attention.
Meantime, the mayor confirms Chicago taxpayers may need to shell out more than $400 million to pay for upgrades at the site of the new Chicago Fire Stadium. The news is a service of the AM 560 mobile app. Listen to AM 560 on your smartphone or mobile device when you download the AM 560 mobile app, 560theanswer.com, AM560.com/mobile. Time now for the AM 560 Business Beat, a service of Signature Bank.
I'm Jerry Willis, and this is the Fox Business Report.
Kroger says its sales held up better than expected in the recent quarter, topping business from a year ago, and Kroger is standing by its forecast for the year. Kroger's shares are narrowly higher. Stock futures are higher, and crude oil prices have retreated after President Trump signed an agreement to wind down the Iran conflict. Brent crude, the global benchmark, is at $78 a barrel. West Texas Intermediate has retreated to $75. AAA's national average for gasoline has dropped below $4 a gallon to $3.99. Investors are bracing for a less predictable Federal Reserve. New Fed Chair Kevin Warsh pulled back from signaling possible moves on interest rates, and now traders are signaling they believe there could be an interest rate hike in September. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Jenny Coselda. Invested in you.
Larry Elder believes the rhetoric needs to be dialed down.
I want him to know how much the American people hate his guts.
Okay. It would just seem to me, after 3 assassination attempts, maybe, just maybe, you might want to turn down the rhetoric. Can you imagine if there had been 3 assassination attempts against Barack Obama? Can you imagine?
The Larry Elder Show. Weeknights at 8, right before Sean Hannity at 10 on AM 560. The Answer. Gain insight into building strong marriages and raising godly children with Focus on the Family with Jim Daly each weekday at 11:30 a.m. on our sister station, AM 1160. Hope for your life.
It is that time of year again to save babies by providing ultrasounds with our friends at Preborn. You know how this goes. We've done it every single year at this time. All you have to do is pick up the phone and say, I want to provide a free ultrasound to a girl. Give her the chance to see the truth of what's happening in her body. Every $28 helps do that, saving one baby. $280 can do that, help save 10 babies. More does more. The phone number is 833-850-2229. 833-850-BABY. Join us saving babies with Preborn again this year. We're going to save hundreds of babies, 1 at a time, 2 or 5 or 10 at a time. That phone number again is 833-850-BABY. That's 833-850-2229. Or go online to 560theanswer.com/baby.
Have you been watching gold and silver lately? Hard to ignore. Back in January of 2025, silver was under $30 an ounce, and now it's more than doubled. Again, not bad, right? Some experts say this bull market is just getting started. Others say it's a good time to take some money off the table. Either way, whether you're buying or selling, Fox Valley Coins in Naperville is the place to go. They stock large quantities of all the major bullion coins and bars. And here's what sets them apart. Unlike places that only pay melt value, Fox Valley Coins pays more for high-grade coins and scarcer dates. That's real money left in your pocket. They also buy scrap sterling flatware, jewelry, silver-plated items, and old proof sets. And they specialize in U.S. and foreign collector and investment coins and currency, both buying and selling. Fox Valley Coins, 1 light north of I-88 on Route 59 at Ferry Road in Naperville. Family-owned with integrity since 1981.
Our founders believed that freedom wasn't just a word, it was a way of life. The freedom to move forward, the freedom to pursue what matters most, the freedom to live fully. But pain has a way of taking those freedoms away. That's why Relief Factor exists and why I endorse it. I've seen how many in this audience have regained their freedom and they're back to living life on their own terms. Relief Factor, it's 100% drug-free. It's a research-based supplement designed to help support a healthy inflammatory response, addressing pain at its source, not just covering it up. Over 1 million Americans have found relief and reclaimed parts of their life they thought were behind them. So this year, as we celebrate 250 years of freedom, ask yourself a simple question. Are you living with the freedom you deserve? Relief Factor. They give you the opportunity to live pain-free and to get back to the life you love. To commemorate our country's birth, they are offering a special patriotic price, just $17.76. So you can celebrate your freedom from pain. Your $17.76 3-week quick start is ready for you right now. ReliefFactor.com, 800-4-RELIEF. 800, the number 4-RELIEF.
It's 8:08, Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. All eyes on I-80 westbound. You're jammed up Briggs to Larkin this morning. Reagan Memorial, I-88, the toll road slowing up right at Roosevelt Road. Delays on DuSable Lakeshore Drive northbound, Bryn Mawr to Hollywood. And delays on the Stevenson this morning, popping up central to western. Traffic, a service of the daily podcast of Chicago's Morning Answer and the Sean Thompson Show. Subscribe free. 560theanswer.com/podcast. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. Now a check of the forecast in the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center.
Today, expect a mix of clouds and sunshine with a breeze picking up, leading to warmer temperatures and a chance of a passing shower in the area. The high will reach 76 degrees. Tonight will be mainly clear with a low of 58. Tomorrow is set to bring mostly sunny skies and comfortable conditions with a high of 77. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
This hourly segment is brought to you by In the Know with Craig Bolanos, powered by VestGen Wealth Partners, Sunday morning at 10 on AM 560 The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Why is a flat screen TV affordable and a college education is not? Well, as some columnists over at Reason argue, because Congress has spent 60 years trying to make college affordable and has spent 0 years trying to make the TVs affordable. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. There's a little Econ 101 lesson. And, if you can master that concept, then you'll probably earn an A after, even in the Ivy League. We talked about this a couple weeks back when that Yale law professor revealed in a podcast that the average grade at Yale, the average grade is A. And the grade inflation, far from reducing anxiety and maniacal behavior from high-achieving students who want the perfect transcript to get the perfect job, it's actually exacerbated anxiety in addition to making those who are actually excelling in their coursework from those who are not indistinguishable, sort of like what happens with tenure, sort of like what happens with teachers' unions, where the poor-performing teacher and the high-performing teacher are treated the same in terms of their compensation and, many instances, advancement. Good piece, both at the Manhattan Institute's website, as well as reprised in part in the Wall Street Journal by Neetu Arnold on grade inflation. So you got price inflation at colleges and universities because the government subsidizes them, because the government, as Reason thinkers argue, has been attempting to make it affordable. And when they attempt to make something affordable, it's going to be unaffordable. Except to those completely on the dole. The middle gets squeezed. And the same thing with grade inflation. Oh, and by the way, at the same time, these green shoots actually occurring in higher education, somewhat of a reckoning, or at least a retooling for the sake of viability. These civic institutes that have been stood up, Neetu Arnold's colleague John Saylor has the story there. At the American Association of University Professors, one of the influential professional associations for professors, a center on quote-unquote academic freedom is seeking to undermine the many newly created schools of civic leadership. In the name of academic freedom, they're squelching academic freedom, of course. In an institution dominated by the left, what else would you expect? Saylor writes, about the dozen universities, North Carolina being a good one of them, UT Austin School of Civic Leadership, University of Florida's Hamilton School, these civic leadership institutes within the academic institution that have been stood up. Well, the AAUP, the American Association of University Professors, teachers union, just think of them that way. Forget the flashy name. Standing up the Center for the Defense of Academic Freedom, which, of course, its purpose is to reduce academic freedom. And he got a recording of Isaac Kamala, the director of this center, saying the following.
I would really love to see kind of a robust research project on these right-wing centers and individuals that like naming and shaming and discrediting and undermining the legitimacy. I would love to strategically map who these are and figure out what the weaknesses are and design a research agenda that just goes through them and tries to knock them out and make sure that we become the go-to place that when people hear an acronym that they don't know, they come to us and find out who it is and they don't listen to them. Like that, I think would just be a huge service.
What a impassioned defense of academic freedom. I've never heard something so compelling in the interest of academic freedom. Let's knock them all out because we disagree with them. We don't want, American history taught, for example. I mean, we want, the stylized version, the people's history of the United States taught, the Marxist interpretation. Knock them out. You know what this sounds like? It sounds like the Southern Poverty Law Center, this institute that's been set up. They're going to combat white supremacy by enlisting white supremacists. They're going to combat the lack of academic freedom by eliminating academic freedom, squelching dissent on campus. It's remarkable stuff. For more on these related topics, pleased to be joined by the aforesaid Neetu Arnold, Education Policy Researcher at the Manhattan Institute. Neetu, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
So let's talk a little bit about Harvard and the Ivy League. I mentioned Yale, but what you wrote about is fascinating. I want you to tell it since you've done the work. The 2 GPAs at Harvard. Harvard undergrads are now treated to 2 GPAs, the flashy one and then the adjusted one. Explain.
Actually, so let me clarify. This is a brand new idea that I've come up with to address.
This is your idea. I see. Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that would make sense. Why would Harvard do this? It would be undermining the flashy GPAs that the students demand. Yeah, that makes more sense, actually. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Your idea to demonstrate the absurdity. Yes.
Yeah, no worries. So just to explain quickly what Harvard did, they've actually instituted a cap on A's. So they're giving 20% of A's to students. The idea is to reduce grade inflation because right now, 60% of A's at Harvard go to students. Now, we're not necessarily seeing that today's Harvard student is necessarily better than a Harvard student from 20 years ago. Students who are entering Harvard today are struggling to read full passages. That's just one example. We're also seeing professors that have gone more lenient in their grading. Instead of grading students based on the knowledge that they've acquired, they're grading them based on what they can do, like showing up to class and raising their hand, which doesn't necessarily demonstrate mastery of the content. So that's why Harvard has capped their A's. Now, the reason I've come up with a new idea is because the one problem that a lot of universities run into when they're deciding how to address grade inflation is there's often a lot of faculty pushback when you try to mandate grading, and a grading cap is a mandate. It's telling professors how they can grade. And so even when universities recognize the problem of grade inflation, they're often just stuck in the debating phase. And so what I've come up with is it's called the inflation-adjusted GPA. So we're adding 2 overall GPAs on a student's transcript. The first GPA is something that you and I are familiar with, and the second GPA is adjusted based on the median grade in a class. So just to put this in perspective, if a student is taking easy A classes, they filled up their courses and they're getting all these A's, the GPAs they might see on their transcript, you're going to see one, it's a traditional GPA of 4.0, and that adjusted GPA will be a 2.7. And the idea is that these large differences in the two GPAs shows that the student's A is, it doesn't actually mean that they are an A-level student.
Yeah, right. I mean, an A in underwater fire safety is not the same as an A in in biochemistry, right? I mean, so I get that, but I mean, but you still have the problem just of grade inflation generally, and the idea. I mean, of course, Harvard. Can somebody talk to Roland Fryer over there, or somebody who knows economics? So you're going to essentially impose price controls. You're going to impose price controls to control inflation. Why don't there be sort of a standard of production? And in one class, maybe 20% of the students do earn A's. In another class, maybe it's only 5 or 7%, or whatever. I just like these artificial. You're capped at this. The floor is that. It all speaks to the same silly thinking about this. And if you tried to advance this like adjusted GPA thing, the American Association of University Professors would immediately put you in one of their gulags, I'm sure.
Well, I think one of the key benefits of an inflation-adjusted GPA, it's really a transparency measure. It's not a grading mandate. So this is something professors can decide if they want to adjust their grading based on the standards set by the inflation-adjusted GPA. I think that's a big thing because, again, a lot of grading reforms don't get past the talking stage. This is not a grading mandate, but it is going to give professors the incentive to grade more accurately, because when students see that they could get, a class would be constrained, the highest they could get on their adjusted GPA is a 2.7 because the professor chose to be an easy grader. Students are not going to like that. And so what you might actually see is that high-achieving students either are not taking those classes anymore, or they're encouraging their professors to grade more rigorously. And so I think this is the way we can turn around the culture on grading leniently. It's about creating the right incentives.
Yeah, but what about the quality of you mentioned the quality of the students. The Harvard undergrad is not necessarily any more able than the Harvard undergrad of 20 years ago. What if they're significantly less able? I mean, you see what's going on at Berkeley, I'm sure. A Berkeley math professor, Mina Agananjic, I realized that for students to follow me, I had to start reviewing basic algebra stuff like fractions. The lack of mathematical fluency, she said, extended even to the meaning of equals in an equation. This is a math professor at Berkeley, who's now arguing for a reinstitution of the SATs because it turned out those are pretty good indicators. A Berkeley history professor said he's gone from assigning 100 pages of reading per week to 35. Another said the earliest version of the course he taught required 7 full books, while his most recent iteration exclusively consisted of excerpts from 7 full books to a handful of excerpts. He goes on to say, we're now reaching a crisis point where if the number of pages goes down further, it's unclear to me whether my discipline of history can really be taught. So what does a grade even mean if you're dealing with students at that level?
Well, I think that's an admissions problem. You want to make sure that your universities are admitting students who are meeting the college readiness standards. But I think when we are setting certain standards for grades and also with this inflation-adjusted GPA, what the university is essentially saying is that grades still mean something and it's important. And I think you can still set the standards, but also address admissions, because this really is an admissions problem.
Yeah, fair enough. That's true. Neetu Arnold is education policy researcher at the Manhattan Institute. Her piece, Whip Grade Inflation Now, the adjusted for degree of difficulty GPA. I like the idea. Neetu, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And you join us on the alphawealthgroup.com answer line.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer.
Your show keeps me alive during the week. There's nobody I'd rather listen to between 5 and 9 in the morning than you guys.
On AM 560, The Answer.
Chicago businesses, you can't afford to be down. You don't have time to wait for IT support. You need one company that does IT well and does it right. Meet Access One, your local Chicagoland IT experts. Access One has been powering Chicago businesses with secure, reliable IT solutions for over 30 years from our headquarters right here in the West Loop. Whether it's VoIP phones, dedicated internet, managed cybersecurity, cloud backups, or 24/7 support, Access One is here for you. Chicago owned, Chicago run, and serving thousands of companies from Naperville to the North Shore. Access One is the trusted IT partner for law firms, clinics, tech startups to manufacturers. Rated top 5% in customer satisfaction and a Better Business Bureau A+ rated business. Access One is your one vendor for everything tech. Let's talk. Call 800-654-1555 or visit accessoneInc.com. That's accessoneInc.com. Tech made personal, locally.
Hey, if you're living with joint pain, listen up. Is your life filled with I can't raise my arms, I can't climb stairs, I can't kneel down, I can't take a long walk or golf with the guys? Well, today's a new day. So take action, make it a day to celebrate what you can do. That's exactly what QC Kinetics patients are doing, back to enjoying their lives again thanks to the innovative treatments offered at QC Kinetics. I've seen the results and personally recommend Dr. Caravelli and her team. So many of you have been through their life-changing regenerative treatments done right in the office. There's no missing work, no surgery, no long recovery, and the inflammation calms down. I want you to schedule a free consultation because you don't have to live a life of I can't. Have a conversation with my friends at QC Kinetics and tell them I sent you. When you do, the treatments are natural. Don't watch the summer pass you by once more. Take action today by scheduling an appointment right now. Consultations are free. Call 312-827-6261. That number again, 312-827-6261. Get on your way to a pain-free summer by calling QC Kinetics at 312-827-6261.
I'm attorney Stephen Leahy. If you're a business owner with unfiled tax returns, tax season is not your friend. This is when the IRS turns up the heat. They match 1099s. They review payroll filings. They compare bank deposits. And when returns are missing, they don't send you a warning. They take action. Penalties stack up fast. Liens become public. Bank levies can drain your account. I see it every year. Good business owners who waited too long, not because they're crooks, but because they were overwhelmed. Let me be clear, hiding makes it worse. Action makes it fixable. I help business owners get compliant, file what's missing, and negotiate from a position of strength, not fear. Don't wait for the next certified letter. Don't wait for a levy. Go to fightbacknow.com and sign up for my daily email. I'll tell you exactly what to do next, step by step. Or call me right now at 312-664-6649. Act now before the IRS acts first.
Platform safety is so important in your industrial facility. You need to keep personnel safe and meet OSHA requirements. Experience one problem with your platforms, and you could be facing costly fines or worse. Vans Industrial helps you meet OSHA standards to keep your employees safe.
Hi, I'm Dave Van Camp, president of Vans Industrial. As a metal fabricator, I know the importance of keeping your workplace safe. Vans Industrial is a specialty contractor, uniquely equipped to design, fabricate, and install safety equipment including steel catwalks, handrails, stairways, and ladders. Our team of union building trades mechanics can inspect existing systems, engineer solutions, fabricate quality steel products, and install it all, creating a safer workplace environment.
Call 833-VANS-IND for a free inspection of your building. See what else they can do for you. Visit vansindustrial.com. That's VANS Industrial.com. Quality craftsmanship since 1964.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Ask yourself this question. Is it really worth holding on to that timeshare that you know you need to get rid of? Here's the truth. The average maintenance fee just went up over 17%. That could have been 117%, and there's nothing you can do about it. When you buy a timeshare, you give them a blank check for annual maintenance and assessment fees. I'm Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group. For 15 years, I've helped over 50,000 families cancel their timeshare. Not sell it, not transfer it, cancel it. Did you buy a timeshare because they told you it was a great investment and your maintenance fees would never go up? That's a lie. Are you ready to get rid of your timeshare once and for all? Simply call us and I'll send you our timeshare exit kit that explains all your options for cancellation.
Call Wesley now for your timeshare exit kit. 800-822-1716. 800-822-1716. 800-822-1716.
Hi, I'm Ken Mariotti, owner of Woodland Windows and Doors, a third-generation family-owned business since 1969. We know you're bombarded by choices when shopping for new windows or doors, so we're inviting you to experience the Woodland difference. For decades, we have been transforming living spaces with Marvin Windows, a fifth-generation family business. Marvin replacement windows have been known to increase the warmth of your cold rooms by 10 degrees. Think about that, 10 degrees warmer. When you welcome Woodland into your home, you will get a product expert to transform your living spaces, full-time, dedicated professional installers that you can trust in your home, along with the best products like Marvin. These are the reasons we're proud of our 5-star reviews and family legacy. No gimmicks, no pressure, and upfront pricing are why Woodland Windows and Doors is your trusted window and door expert in Chicagoland. Visit woodlandwindows.com to book your free in-home expert consultation. That's woodlandwindows.com, or stop by our showroom at the corner of Lake and Geary in Roselle.
It is that time of year again to save babies by providing ultrasounds with our friends at Preborn. You know how this goes. We've done it every single year at this time. All you have to do is pick up the phone and say, I want to provide a free ultrasound to a girl. Give her the chance to see the truth of what's happening in her body. Every $28 helps do that, saving one baby. $280 can do that, help save 10 babies. More does more. The phone number is 833-850-2229. 833-850-BABY. Join us saving babies with Preborn again this year. We're going to save hundreds of babies, one at a time, 2 or 5 or 10 at a time. That phone number again is 833-850-BABY. That's 833-850-2229. Or go online to 560theanswer.com/baby.
And now it's time for the Cat's Corner.
This is John Catsimatidis with the Cat's Corner. I want to get something off my chest. We have too many professional politicians. I go back to that original movie, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. We need common sense business people that go to Washington and they want to do the right job for everybody. We don't need professional politicians that go to Washington and are on the payroll of every lobbyist in Washington. That turns my stomach. And I live in New York State. I see what's happening in New York State. I see what's happening in California. I see what's happening in Illinois and these blue states. And I was a Bill Clinton Democrat and still good friends with President Clinton. Common sense, wanting to do the right thing for all Americans. And I think that is important. Let's vote for common sense. Not the smile, not necessarily the good-looking politician, not necessarily the person that's trying to tell you you're going to get everything for free. Think things out. That is today's Cat's Corner. I'm John Catsimatidis.
AM 560, The Answer.
Coming up at 8:38, does President Trump's comments about the JCPOA from 2015 match up with his comments about this MOU in 2026, the one he signed in Versailles yesterday? We'll start there with Hussein Abdul Hussein, research fellow at the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies. 8:38. Now we check the headlines with Mike Scott.
65 degrees this morning in the QC Kinetics newsroom. Clouds and sun today with a possible shower. High 74. Tornadoes caused injuries across the Midwest. Several storms and tornadoes reported Wednesday night across Iowa and into the state of Illinois, including one that caused major injuries in the city of Charleston. In Warsaw, Illinois, this resident is cleaning up after debris and powerful winds.
I can't even imagine the amount it's gonna take for these men and women to get this cleaned up, but they will, because Warsaw comes together.
Tornadoes also struck the city of Effingham and destroyed parts of the town of Teutopolis. President Trump says the 60-day timeline to negotiate with Iran is not a hard deadline.
Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. They can't develop it, buy it. They can never have a nuclear weapon.
Also, the president said the G7 summit, in his words, went very well.
The past 2 days have provided a chance to discuss the details of this historic agreement with many of our closest friends and allies, including the G7 nations and many presidents and prime ministers, as you saw.
Secretary Pete Hegseth had a stinging criticism of NATO allies as he announces a 6-month review of American forces in Europe today. An oil refinery in Russia has been attacked by Ukrainian drones, the second time this week. The Obama Presidential Center opens today in Chicago's Jackson Park. Plan to hold parents accountable for the actions of their kids when it comes to teen rioting and takeovers fails to gain traction in the Chicago City Council. To crack down on those teen takeovers, Alderman Ray Lopez tried and failed to resurrect his parent accountability ordinance.
We need to wake parents up. We need to give them the tools to be better parents in order to break this cycle, because even though the mayor keeps saying more money is needed for programs, the best program to keep youth in line is a parent that's paying attention.
Meantime, the city of Chicago is buying the Greyhound bus station on the near west side, voting to approve $19 million through the city council to buy that facility on West Harrison. Actor and South Suburban native Tom Dreesen is dead. Children posting on Facebook. He passed away yesterday at age 86. And family and fellow musicians confirmed the death of the co-founder of the band Chicago, Walt Parazaider. Parazaider semi-retired in 2017 after heart issues, and the Proviso West and DePaul grad was diagnosed with Alzheimer's in 2021. Chicago sports. Cubs beat the Rockies 8-6. White Sox lost in the Bronx 10-5. The news, a service of the AM 560 mobile app. Listen to AM 560 on your smartphone or mobile device at 560theanswer.com/mobile. A check of the roads in 2 minutes on AM 560.
Alex Marlow sees no support from the fake news.
And I think what the president is doing is essentially managing expectations towards a defeat.
So that's what she's saying, is that we are being defeated by Iran, even though we wiped out all their leadership, we wiped out all their aerial defenses, we wiped out so much of their navy. This is the whole thing, that why the fake news is the enemy of the people.
The Alex Marlow Show, afternoons at 3, right before Sean Thompson at 4 on AM 560. The Answer.
If moving safely around your home is a concern, you deserve clear answers, not a sales pitch. Access will help you improve home accessibility with practical solutions like lifts, grab bars, and home modifications, designed to fit your home, your needs, and budget. Experienced professionals will take the time to explain your options so you can make an informed decision. If staying safe and comfortable in your home matters to you, start with a free in-home consultation. Call Access at 630-616-6249 or visit allaboutaccess.com.
Picture warm Gulf breezes, turquoise waters, white sand beaches. Now, add evenings of conversation with Salem Media's Mike Gallagher, Scott Jennings, Larry O'Connor, and Jennifer Horn. This November, sail from Fort Lauderdale to the Bahamas, Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, and Mexico on a 7-day journey built for those who love this country. Book your cabin today when you text the word cruise to 94878. Celebrate America's 250th anniversary the right way on the Gulf of America Cruise. Book your cabin now. Text the word cruise to 94878.
Each morning, the newsmakers and the newsbreakers shaping today's conversation are heard on the AlphaWealthGroup.com answer line on Chicago's Morning Answer. When you need answers about what's happening in your world, you turn to AM 560 The Answer. And when you need answers about how to prepare for and protect your retirement, you turn to the Alpha Wealth Group, now the proud sponsor of the AM 560 Answer line. Right here on Chicago's source for news, opinion, and insight. AM 560 The Answer.
Welcome back to Ask Hassleus.
I'm your biggest fan.
Oh, well, thanks.
The way you talk about employee-free Hassleus showrooms, free next-day delivery, and prices that are way low. I mean, nobody does it better.
I don't know what to say.
Say that I can get a free box spring.
Okay. Now through Monday, at Hassleus, get a free box spring with the purchase of any Sealy Posturepedic or Beautyrest mattress.
I have that tattooed on my...
Open 9 to 9. Find an employee-free showroom near you at Hassleus.com.
Virago is fending off viruses and making America healthy again.
Hi, my name is Dr. Michael Huber. I'm one of the co-founders of Virago, the immune enhancement cocktail. Here are what some Virago users have to say.
I started using Virago a little more than a year ago. I have 3 school-age kids, and they are constantly bringing home whatever bug is going around school, whether it's a cold, a sore throat, whatever it is. Everyone in the house was getting sick. I started taking Virago to help boost my immune system, and it worked. I haven't been sick since starting Virago. I use just a half a dose daily unless I feel like I'm getting something. Then I'll take a full dose for a day or 2, and I'm fine. I also feel great and more on top of my game, like my memory is sharper. I'm not forgetting things. I absolutely recommend Virago.
Boost your immune system with Virago. Order your bottle today. Visit myvirago.com. That's myvirago.com.
And use promo code IMMUNE to get 30% off.
That's myvirago.com. Use coupon code IMMUNE to save 30%. Virago and Maha, making America healthy again.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Forever Remodeling. Stress-free and high-quality remodeling. View their stunning transformations online at the number 4everremodeling.com.
8:39, the news, the service of Steiner Homes. Visit SteinerHomesLTD.com, Northwest Indiana's leading home builder. Steiner Homes, love where you live. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. Watching the Kennedy jam up inbound Keeler to Division. Stop and go on the Stevenson Central to Western Avenue. And delays on DuSable Lakeshore Drive. Stop and go northbound between Bryn Mawr and Hollywood. Traffic, a service of Aleve. And traffic is also a service of Mattress Firm's 4th of July sale. Choose from a curated selection of top brands. Let their sleep experts help you narrow it down. They make sleep easy. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but first, check of the morning forecast in the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center. Clouds and sun, maybe a shower today, high near 74.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. So the criticism is often lodged in the direction of Trump's critics when it comes to foreign policy matters. Foreign policy. Oh, sure, let's listen to the people who've been wrong about every major foreign policy issue for the last 50 years. Oh, okay, that's fair. You know, like Biden. It's fair enough. But what happens when it's ostensibly Trump and the Trump administration repeating the same mistakes that have been made time and again over the last 50 or 70 years? Say with, for example, the belief that the mullahs in Tehran can somehow be treated as a normal country and welcomed into this fictional community of nations. Turning over a new leaf, J.D. Vance says. Or what about using Lebanon as a bargaining chip to deal with extremist elements, Islamist elements in the Middle East, going back 70 years when Eisenhower acceded to Egypt with respect to Lebanon, and President Trump today suggesting that Israel relent and cede to Syria the job of dealing with Hezbollah's dominance of Lebanon. How does that comport even with what Donald Trump wrote in an op-ed in September of 2015, USA Today? Donald Trump's words. It's hard to believe a president of the United States would actually put his name on an agreement with the terrorist state Iran that is so bad, so poorly constructed, and so terribly negotiated that it increases uncertainty and reduces security for America and our allies, including Israel. It was amateur hour for those charged with striking this deal with Iran, demonstrating to the world yet again the total incompetence of our president and politicians. It appears we wanted a deal at any cost, rather than following the advice of Ronald Reagan and walking away because, quote, no deal is better than a bad deal, unquote. After the agreement goes into effect, all nuclear-related sanctions will be lifted. Iran receives a windfall of $150 billion, which will no doubt fund terrorism around the world. I understand that President Trump used the stick in the way that President Obama did not, and he has devastated Iran's military capacity and industrial base, but there's a lot of money at the front end for reconstitution. Marco Rubio, who has been noticeably absent from publicly defending this MOU that's signed by President Trump in Versailles yesterday, on the Senate floor in 2015.
I do want to be recorded for history's purposes before I know what was going to happen in regards to this if it goes through. Iran will immediately use the money that it's receiving in sanctions relief to begin to build up its conventional capabilities. It will establish the most dominant military power in the region outside of the United States, and it will raise the price of us operating in the region. They're going to build anti-access capabilities, rockets capable of destroying our aircraft carriers and ships, continue to build these swift boats that are able to come on us, these fast boats that are able to swarm our naval assets. And they'll make it harder and harder for U.S. troops to be in the region. They'll also work with other terrorist groups in the region to target American servicemen and women. And they may or may not deny that they're involved, but they will target us and raise the price of our presence in the Middle East until they hope to completely pull us out of that region. They'll also continue to build long-range missiles, missiles capable of reaching the United States. Those are not affected by this deal, and they'll continue to build them as they've been doing. And then at some point in the near future, when the time is right, they will build a nuclear weapon. And they will do so because at that point they will know that they have become immune, that we will no longer be able to strike their nuclear program because the price of doing so will be too high.
And that's where we pick up the story 11 years later, and Trump deserves great credit for sidelining their nuclear program and their development of a nuclear weapon that the JCPOA provided a glide path to. I'm not suggesting, nor I have, that this is the same as the Obama deal and that those criticisms back in 2015 were unwarranted. They were spot on. But though the military campaign, and going back to last June, including last June, accomplished some important things for which Trump deserves credit, this negotiation for peace prospectively has problems, including with respect to Lebanon. And here's what President Trump said yesterday, again, with respect to Israel: its right to defend itself, its right to respond to attacks being launched from Beirut by Hezbollah.
I'm not saying they shouldn't protect themselves. I'm saying when two drones are shot into the desert and drop harmlessly, you don't have to knock down buildings in Beirut. They could behave better. And frankly, they could do a better job. I love them as a partner. They were terrific. But they could do a much better job with Hezbollah. On that, I don't think they're doing well. And I feel very bad for Lebanon. Lebanon's been, it was a great culture. They had the professors, the doctors.
Yeah, and who has wrecked it? Not Israel, Hezbollah. And why could the Israelis could be doing a better job? Well, they could be doing a better job if their rules of engagement were not so generous to their terrorist predators. It's complicated, as you found out, didn't you, Mr. President, with the Iranians? The response should be proportional. Why? Who's the bad actor here? Shouldn't be proportional. In fact, Israel, my estimation, and the estimation of West Point academics and anybody else who's looked at the rules of engagement for the Israelis, is that, if anything, Israel errs too much on the side of proportionality. For more on all this, pleased to be joined by Hussein Abdul Hussein, research fellow at the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies and author of The Arab Case for Israel. Mr. Abdul Hussein, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on.
So the president's position with respect to Lebanon, and this is one of those must-haves right now that is generating much concern because it provides Iran the potential for an out if they continue to encourage Hezbollah to launch attacks against Israel. Israel responds, and then Iran says, well, that's a violation of the terms that all warring must end, including in Lebanon, and the Israelis violated it, which means the Americans violated it, which means it's a no bid. And so what of the president's posture and that provision in this MOU?
Well, the provision looks ambiguous, and I think they did that on purpose. It looks ambiguous to everyone. It does not clearly state whether the Israeli military should withdraw from territory that it controls in Lebanon. I think the Israeli army would be happy to cease fire for now, except that Hezbollah wouldn't stop as long as Israel controls territory. It tries to push southward, which forces the Israelis to open fire to stop them. So the phrase, the MOU, is just too ambiguous, and each side can just interpret it the way they want. Now, the most important thing to me here is that the Iranians, even before they got a cent of the money of the released funds and assets, they already promised that they will send a lot of money to Hezbollah. And to me, this looks like a promise that war will be renewed one day.
And the suggestion that Trump made that Israel should outsource dealing with Hezbollah in Lebanon to Jilani and the Syrians?
This is probably one of the worst foreign policy ideas I've heard. And, there are so many things that can go wrong. Number one, the only reason Hezbollah is on the back foot is because Israel is keeping its pressure. Now, if Israel releases the pressure and Jilani steps in, there's no guarantee that his military is stronger than the Hezbollah military. The assumption that he can take care of Hezbollah and finish off Hezbollah is incorrect. The second thing is that the minute the Syrian side tries to set foot on the Lebanese side, there's a lot of bad blood and history between these two nations. And even though Hezbollah is very unpopular at this moment, I think it will become popular because all the Lebanese will rally around the flag to defend their nation against the invading Syrians. So I can cite dozens of reasons why this is a terrible idea, but these are the main two ones.
And the history here, I mentioned it sort of at the outset, but you wrote a very good piece about this at the Foundation for Defense of Democracy's website, fdt.org. About America's history with the Lebanese and using them as basically a bargaining chip with the Islamist powers that were preeminent over the course of 70 years, and how that's worked out for them and for us.
Yes. Well, the thing is, as a world power, we tend to deal with the biggest powers in the region, say Iran or Turkey or even Egypt. But more often than not, we look at smaller nations as change, as reward that we can give in bargaining with the big nations. Now, the problem here is that a small nation like Lebanon has something that all other big nations don't have, is that it is the most diverse. And until very recently, more than half of the population was Christian. And now the Christian population has gone down to 1/3 and is still declining. So we fail to see the importance of having Lebanon as sort of separated from the regional inferno, and we keep on pushing it. We've done this so many times. Back in the 60s, or 50s even, we handed it over to Egypt's Abdel Nasser. In 1991, we handed it over to Syria's Hafez Assad as a reward for Syria joining our war to eject Iraqi troops from Kuwait. 2008, we advised the Lebanese government to get to terms with Hezbollah, just like President Trump was recommending a week ago. He was saying, maybe you have to talk to Hezbollah. And, if you talk to any Lebanese, they will tell you there's no way you can talk to Hezbollah because Hezbollah doesn't want to share or behave like a regular party. Hezbollah wants to dominate and rules everyone. So it's unfortunate that more often than not, we just give up on the Lebanese fast, even though their elected government has been outspoken in saying we don't want to be part of the Iranian deal, and that we are our own government. We want to have direct talks with the Israelis to get to peace. So they're saying all the great things that we want them to say. But again, when the big powers start talking, no one will listen to you.
Right, and I mean, and that's the ironic thing about Trump's statements, talking about the Lebanese people and the Christian majority there, and appealing to this being a robust country with deep intellects and professionals, and a desire to live as a peaceful, pluralist country. Well, but at the same time, you're putting the handcuffs on people who share the Lebanese perspective, according to the Lebanese, who are warning the West, warning the Trump administration about Hezbollah and the Iranian relationship there. And regardless of what the Iranians are saying at the negotiating table, here's what they're actually doing, and here's what they're going to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And, one thing about Lebanon is that it's one of the few countries in the region, other than Israel, where they do hold regular election, where they have some sort of freedom. They express their opinion. They hold opinion polls. So it's not like we don't know what the Lebanese want. It's not like we don't know what they think is the problem. They know what they want. They want peace. They think that the problem is Hezbollah. And, once they got the opportunity to eject Hezbollah after October 7, when Israel went after Hezbollah, now we're reversing ourselves. We're tying the hands of Israel, asking them to retreat because, we want Hormuz open. So if you are sitting in Lebanon and you're thinking, what is Hormuz to me? I have my own country, I have my own state, I have my own interests. So I think there's a lot of frustration and disappointment among the Lebanese that even though they have an elected government voicing their own opinion, the world doesn't seem to be listening to them.
Hussein, Abdul Hussein, he's a research fellow at the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies. He's also the author of The Arab Case for Israel. Hussein Abdul Hussein, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And he joined us on the alphawealthgroup.com answer line.
Before you see it on TV, share it on Facebook, or read about it in the paper. Hear it here first. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Buy gold and put some silver in your pocket. I know what you're thinking. Everything's expensive right now. How am I going to buy gold? It's Ron Paul. Nowadays, a lot of things are out of your control, but there is something you can do right now to diversify your retirement, and it doesn't cost you anything out of pocket. My friends at Birch Gold Group will help you convert an IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold, a time-tested hedge against inflation. Plus, in honor of America 250, Birch Gold is going to give you a special America 250 1-ounce silver round for every $10,000 you purchase by July 2nd. Text the word SHELTER to the number 989898 to get a free info kit from Birch Gold and claim eligibility for this limited time offer. Again, text the word SHELTER to 989898 today.
Thinking about buying a new home or refinancing your existing mortgage, you need to call Team Hochberg, your trusted local lender, backed by nearly 800 five-star Google reviews. Here's what Mary had to say. David is fantastic. He's always ready to help, whether buying, selling, refinancing, or anything to help with finances. He's patient even with complicated issues. He goes the extra mile when others wouldn't. I can't recommend him enough. You won't regret going with David for any of your mortgage issues. I'm recommending him to my daughter and anyone I know who I know he can help. Let's review. Mary shared her five-star experience on Google after Team Hochberg consolidated her debt and reduced her payments more than $1,500 per month, or $18,000 a year. Team Hochberg has helped Mary and thousands of AM 560 listeners, but they can't help you if you don't call 855-56-DAVID or visit 56david.com. That number again is 855-563-2843. And the website you know, love, and trust, 56david.com. ACM, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS 643-114.
Hey, business owners, is your business and money in good hands? Does your bank invest in your success? Hi, Mike Gallagher here, letting you know that when you need a relationship bank, Signature Bank makes commercial banking personal. I love these guys. Not only do they have expansive industry experience, a strong financial track record, but they're also highly capitalized for strategic growth. That's so important. That's why Signature Bank is my bank. They know what it means to grow a business by designing solutions that are right for you and only you. These are real people. They're ready to help. So reach out to my friends at Signature Bank. Make the call today, 773-467-5630, 773-467-5630, or visit them online at signaturebank.bank. That's signaturebank.bank. Your business could be Signature Bank's next success story. Go online, signaturebank.bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender. Signature Bank.
Take the journey of living a happy, successful, and meaningful life through God. Listen to It's Time with Dan Lights, Sunday mornings at 9 on our sister station, AM 1160. Hope for your life. AM 560, The Answer.
By the way, the texters, it's a framework. If, what if, maybe, could be, sounds, you got to give it some chance to breathe. Yeah, fine. It's a framework. I know it's a framework. And so, what does that mean? We don't have a conversation about it? Is Trump not defending it? Is he expressing any reservations? I'm not hearing them. So when do we get to comment? We'll just wait and see what happens. Do we get to comment in 30 days, 60 days, a year, 10 years? When is it fair? Asking tough questions, thinking through things, getting perspectives, providing some realism, and also, providing an assessment of the good things we agree with, too. It's all of the above. So that's what we do on this show. If you want a repetition of MAGA talking points, go to one of those MAGA fanboys. They're all over the dial, but this isn't that show. It's now 9 o'clock on AM 560.
He returned to Washington just before dawn. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News, where President Trump is facing pushback from the right and the left over the deal with Iran he signed digitally last night before leaving the G7 summit in France. Concerned it gives sanctions relief unfreezes Iran's assets and gives them a reconstruction fund.
It's not even comparable to the Obama deal. It's worse by a lot.
That's Democratic Senator Alyssa Slotkin on MS Now.
Louisiana Republican Senator Bill Cassidy also saying President Reagan is rolling over in his grave. Iran's nuclear ambitions were not curbed and that they have learned that threatening the Strait of Hormuz works and will undoubtedly leverage it in the future.
But as Fox's Mark Meredith also reports from the White House, the president is pushing back hard.
The president says this was also about the economy. He posted around 4:30 this morning, these fools who think I